was here.
So late.
Oh, where you going, brother? Come back here now. We're gonna need everyone we can get. I'd like to call the East Ascension Drainage meeting to order, July the 20th, 2020. Ms. Secretary, let it be known that Mr. Turner, Ogeron, and Mr. Wagensback are absent. And Mr. Johnny, would you please lead the invocation, followed by the pledge?
Thank you. Please rise. Heavenly Father, we ask your blessings on this meeting tonight. Please guide us so that we will make firm, good decisions for the citizens of Ascension Parish. In this time of trial and testing, please show us the need to respect one another, to be patient and kind. We ask this through your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign in with Ms. Liz. With that, we'll move on to number 4, the acceptance of the minutes for the June 11th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Ms. Terry, second by Mr. Aaron. Chairman report. I'd like to let everyone know that we've been taking some little field trips, and want to thank the parish president, Mr. Ron, everyone that we've been going to take a look at different parishes, pump systems, and really picking up a lot of technology, a lot of things that are changing. So just want to let everyone know we are out looking for new ways of running our pumps. Parish President, you want to add anything to that, or Mr. Ron?
Thanks, Chairman. Yeah, I do. I want to thank the council members who took time. I know not everybody can make it, but it's one of these things. Jefferson Parish has an extensive pumping system, and it's one of these things you can't describe in words, that you have to actually go and you put your eyes on it, look how they run the system, some of their equipment, some of their technology. As we continue to try to find solutions for drainage here, it's important that we look outside our parish boundaries and look what other parishes are doing. Oftentimes, you don't have to create the wheel from scratch. You just have to go ahead and see what others are doing and improve on it. So I want to thank everybody who took the time to come out, and I think we're pointed in the right direction. We'll continue to enhance ourselves knowledge-wise, and when we spend money, hopefully we're spending money on projects that benefit the constituents that we serve, and overall keep water out of their homes, and that's the overall objective. So thank you.
Appreciate you. We'll move on to number 6, drainage report. Mr. Ron?
Yes, good evening, Board. So I go over routine, a little bit of work happening within the drainage department. The off-road drainage, we have Hope Villa Drive. We're digging the outfall of that whole area and increasing some of the culverts that were blocked and some collapsed. Country Drive, outfall ditch digging. Demi Milley Road off of Highway 44. Butch Gore Park, some perimeters of the park drainage, and all through the cabinet shop area off of Harry Savoy Road. Black Bayou Road is being dug out from Cannon to the Black Bayou. Rayburn Church area off of Highway 941, we're digging some outfalls behind the churches there. George Rouillet Road, Maple Grove subdivision by Neely Canal. It's a big outfall for the whole George Rouillet area. Highway 30, we're digging outfall behind the dentist office on Hodgson Road, and Adam Lane. We're also digging by Bayou Narcisse to Adam Lane. So there's a lot of in the field work going on. Sometimes we don't hear or see too much of them because they're out off the streets. But there's a lot going on. A lot have been completed in the last couple of months. And the grass cutting crews are currently, the state highways have just about completed Airline Highway. They'll be going to Highway 30 next. When they wrap that up, they'll probably be coming up 431. One group is cutting parish roads off of Highway 74. Another group is on 929, the off-road ditches. Weber City, they're trying to cut all the off-road ditches out in that area. And Parish Road's off of 621, we have a crew there. And our hand cleaning crews are on Swamp Road right now, digging an outfall ditch there. So we got a lot of things going on in the field, and Davin may touch in a bit on the roadside contracts there, up and running as well. And, you know, with the rain event we had a week or two back, you know, it was a little bit challenging for us with so much rain in a short amount of time. But I was asked, if you guys don't mind, to go into a little bit of demonstration on our pumping stations, where they're located in the parish and what drains to each station. Kind of give a just general overview of them for the new council and boards and residents that may have not seen this before. If you guys don't mind, we'll go right into it and go over the infrastructure for us, pumping station and floodgates in the parish. So, we start off with many different watersheds within the parish, and we mainly all drain out to the east and southeast through either Bayou Manchac, the Amite River, Diversion Canal, Pit A Mid out to Blind River, and the southern end of the parish, Bayou Conway, out to Blind River. The next slide you'll see is just a general overlay of the GIS of all of our outfall ditches that are off the road. This is not road ditches, this is just off-road. So you can see the magnitude of the miles of ditch that we have in our parish. With that, each flood control structure drains portions of those waters. Some of them do not go to a flood control structure. But we'll start off with the Frog Bayou floodgate control structure on Alligator Bayou Road. If you look to the northwest corner of the parish, you see the star that's on Alligator Bayou Road near Bayou Manchac. And this is the actual floodgate itself in action. This is an event from last year. That's Bayou Manchac that you're going over now, really close to the road. It's at elevation 11.5. And then on the bluff side, you can see we closed those floodgates and held that floodwater back. We were at an elevation 5.8 on the bluff swamp side. You'll see the footage go down to the gauge. You see we're right now at 5.8. So when you come back up on the shot here looking at Manchac, you'll see that water being held back from backing up in the bluff swamp. So that's one 6x6 box culvert that drains all of bluff swamp. And the Fish Bayou project is roughly a few hundred yards proposed away from this current site. This is a map that shows you what drains to that area. If you look at the I-10 marker, you'll see that little finger coming out. That's right there by Sammy's Grill on Airline Highway and 73. That's the top end of the bluff swamp, which drains west into that swamp. And then if you go further down, it's everything west of I-10, and 74 would be north of Highway 74. Think of Dutchtown High School. Everything to the west of Dutchtown High School pretty much drains into the bluff swamp. There are no pumps there. It's just a gravity flow system. So when Bayou Manchac is at a lower elevation than bluff swamp, those locks are open, and we will let water out up to rain starting to fall. We will go and let water out as long as we possibly can to keep the capacity of bluff swamp available. Moving on to the northeast, you get to Henderson Bayou Pumping Station and Floodgate. The main purpose of this area is a floodgate. This is an actual clip of it in action in a backwater event. At elevation 4 is when we can close that floodgate. So anything below a 4 on Henderson Bayou, those locks should remain open. And right here it is closed, and there was at a safe elevation on the interior, so you don't see pumps pumping, because we also have residents within Ascension Parish on the backside of this pumping station. So we really go by the elevation 4 criteria here before we really get into gauging pumps. And this is the area in purple that drains to Henderson Bayou. At 431 and 931 extension is really where your northeastern part of that basin is. And everything west of 931 extension by Demco and Norwood Road, then you get to Highway 931 itself. Traveling west, everything north of Highway 931 drains to Henderson Bayou. When you get to Highway 44 and 931, when you travel north towards Highway 42, think of Merritt Evans Road, and Parker Road, and 42 and 44. All of those areas near Galvez mainly drain into our Henderson Bayou Basin. But that's pretty much Henderson. Then you get to the southern end of the parish, you see Sorrento Pumping Station. This consists of 3 pumps, and it is a actual pumping station. There's no floodgate there. It's just some gate valves that we can shut, and it will pump out the retention areas of Sorrento. There, like I said, there's 300 CFS pumps there, and they're all up and running and maintenance and ready to go. And mainly this drains the town of Sorrento. Think of John LeBlanc Boulevard and Bayou Conway intersection, and John LeBlanc Boulevard from Bayou Conway to the Airline Highway, and everything off of Brittany Street. Just about to the turn of Highway 941 intersection of Brittany Street drains towards Sorrento Pumping Station. And that blue area is pretty much the parameters of what I just explained to you. And then we get into our Marvin Bros system. That is located at the intersection of Bayou Francois and Severio Canal, and discharges into New River out to Pitt Amite and Blind River. I would say roughly 60 to 70% of the parish drains flood control structure-wise to Marvin Bro. We have 7 1,000 CFS pumps out there. We had 1 gearbox that's being maintenance right now, but it's back in line, and they're fine-tuning that reinstallation now. But this is the pump station that will drain all of Santa Monica, Gonzales, portions of Prairieville, and you'll see in a minute on the map where that goes. But all 7 pumps are running here in this footage. And we have a lot of staff that's trained to run this station. And many factors come into play as to when we enact the station and run it versus letting things go out natural. We have 45,000 gallons of diesel there, and we can run up to 2 weeks as it sits, but we will normally order fuel as soon as we kick on to a major event. So this area, you can see the large portion of the parish that will drain to Marvin Bro Pumping Station. So this map that you'll see coming up is sort of all of the little puzzle pieces that we just talked about coming together. So I want to highlight that the areas in khaki color are all gravity flow within the parish. So north of 42 and east of 42 and 44 intersection, those areas of the parish are mostly gravity flow that drain a lot to Bayou Manchac through Muddy Creek, and some of it goes to Amite River. As far as the southern end of the parish in khaki, you drainages through Bayou Conway and Panama watershed. Then it goes on out to Blind River. And the most prone problems of those areas are high tides and backwater flooding events. So we don't have the ability with pumps or levee control structures in those areas. When we have high tides and you get a flash flooding type rain event in a combination at the same time, those are the times that areas without these pumping systems see problems. And also the pumping systems will see problems in certain criteria events. We urge all citizens to get flood insurance. So one thing I just turned on at the next slide you'll see is our levees turn on. And if you notice to the right, you'll see the dark red and black that popped on. I'll go back and turn it back on. That's your Law Ridge Levee Extension proposed route. So if that levee is built, that'll be another puzzle piece added to the parish that would be protected by our systems that currently today is not. So that's just a quick overview of all of our infrastructure. I hope you guys got something out of that, and I'd be glad to answer any questions I may have not covered. But that pretty much concludes my report.
Mr. Robert?
Can you pull up your last slide you had? The bottom, what is the yellow and black, the 2 lines?
That does represent a levee, Joel. That's what GIS is showing.
That means that something is actually there?
It's the Mississippi.
Mississippi River.
Mississippi River.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. What is the possibility of putting a levee from the bottom left, where the Brown of the Marvin Bro, to the Sorrento and encasing that area also?
I think you're getting into yeah, go ahead.
Obviously, when you look at this picture, Councilman Robert, what you see is a large part of the southern part of our parish, from the Marvin Bro area down to the Mississippi levees, that is not protected under a pump system. I mean, these are obviously something we need to look into as the southern part of our parish, south of I-10, continues to be developed, because that's under our gravity-fed system. Maintenance is mandatory, but yes, certainly need to look at a future stage of leveeing off that and adding pumps to our southern part of our parish, completing our levee system, basically from Mississippi levee all the way up to where the law.
Mississippi River, or going and pumping elsewhere? As far as,
We'll let the modeling determine that, but this is something that we got to put a lot of research into, and it's obviously going to be federal funding involved in that, and we'll have the federal agencies come in and help us assist in where those levees are best suited
thank you.
and how we move forward.
I did fail to mention one thing, on that southern end of the parish, on the Bayou Conway, Panama Canal area mainly. One thing we can do, as you saw on the field trip we took that day, is trees will fall because there's a lot of swamp vegetated on both sides. We do have that contract that you guys renewed last month with Chem Spray. That has been executed. Matter of fact, they're out there today. There's 33 trees in the Panama and Conway watershed that they're currently actively getting out right now. And we also tasked them at the low end of New River, the very far end near the pumps. It's canopied on both sides, and there are some trees down there, and they're going to go get those as well. And we should have enough funding left on that contract for the remainder of 2020 hurricane season. If anything else should fall and we see it during an inspection, we'll get Chem Spray to go right back and get it out. So that is our maintenance for the southern end, is keeping those channels open. And they've been doing a great job at doing that and spraying the vegetation as well.
You good, Joe?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Aaron?
Yes, Ron, thank you for the presentation. That answered a ton of the questions I had and that I get a lot from constituents. In relation to that, with the Henderson Bayou Pump, you talked about 4 feet. I just want to, or 4 is the number. If it's my understanding, the water level has to reach 4 feet before we can turn the pumps on, and it has to be, I guess, projected to hit 7 feet. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. For the most part, yeah. I mean, if we get a 4, we're going to probably be getting calls to see the water. They'll be seeing the water levels at a 4 on the low end. Now, in Galvez and the upper branches of it, it'll still be within the banks. But at a 4, we're most likely going to close that floodgate.
Okay,
We're going to start. That means we're getting backwater and the Amite River's rising.
Right.
gotcha. And as far as like the Prairieville area, the part that is gravity drained, is that what it is right now? We don't have any structures or anything protecting that?
It depends on where you're at, Aaron. You know where Rhonda Place subdivision is at 92942?
Know it very well.
Right behind Rhonda Place is the start of Black Bayou. All of that drains to Marvin Brook, south of 42 at that point. So I would pretty much tell you north of 42 from there, all drains into Muddy Creek and,
Okay.
and Bayou Manchac.
And I guess the Muddy Creek Bayou Manchac drainage basin, we don't have any protections from backflow, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Is that something that, if we move forward with the master plan, that we could look into? Because is that something that could benefit long-term?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we need to let our modeling determine those things, but we are looking at that, and other entities have looked at it. PLD has looked at Bayou Manchac, and we are definitely in conversations with PLD about that. It is a tri-parish waterway, and it's a scenic waterway as well. So definitely need to look at all aspects of it, but I think we definitely want to go on modeling whatever we decide to do in that area. It's not a simple fix.
No, believe me,
in that
I
area.
want to make it clear to everybody watching on TV that none of this is a simple fix. There's unintended consequences no matter what we do, if we don't model things and we don't prepare and learn what it's really going to do, I think we've had instances before where we've done something and then we find out it creates a problem elsewhere, and that's why the modeling is so important. So no, believe me, I'm all for doing the modeling and making sure we're doing this correctly. Good job, Ron. Thank you.
What about the people in here?
Mr. Chase.
You said the ones on TV.
I'm good. Great presentation.
Ms. Terry.
Likewise, my questions have been answered, and I appreciate
Ms. Jones.
Aaron's
Just-
follow-up.
Just a quick question on, obviously, the Marvin Brew Basin takes in a lot. I thought it was like 4 districts. It looks like it's like 6 are impacted by that flow. And as far as waterways, Grand Goudin, Smith Bayou, Black Bayou, Bayou Francois, and New River. And Bayou Narcisse, I guess, that's a small one.
Yes, sir.
That's pretty big.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Great presentation, by the way. That's all.
Got anything
Oh, I'm
else,
good.
Mr.
No, good job, Ron.
One quick comment.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Chase.
You had your chance.
Is it possible for us to get this out, like on a social media or like a Facebook or something, or get the presentation to us, and I'm happy to,
Put it on the website.
Yeah,
post it for in.
I'd defer to the administration on that. I don't have a problem with it, but we definitely want to make sure that they're okay with that.
Yeah, we can do that, Mr. President. Via email. I mean, send it to me. I'll put it out. I don't care.
Working on social media policy. As soon as we get
okay.
that adopted, we'll move forward with these type of presentations as the council sees fit.
Good deal. I think this is excellent things, just the most basic information that we should get out to, everybody. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Ron, I know we got Davin do you have an update on-road, off-road?
Right now, we're working on pad 65. 65 completed. I know pad is going up, and I'm out of Google tomorrow. I will be going back September.
And just, we appreciate everything. I mean, we catching up on a lot of work orders that have been around for some time now. And it's working out great. I don't know if anyone else is, we are definitely getting the barricades off the road. We are getting the water off the road. So, a lot of this stuff is working. So, I don't know if you want to add anything else, or if anyone else had anything about the on and off road digging. That's it, Mr. Davin. And Ron, I'll just finish up with, I know I know we've been talking about permits, but I'm looking at the upper part of Parker. I'm looking at the Marta Buret Ditch, quite a these other ones on Henderson Bayou. I know this permit, we've been waiting some time now, and I know another month or two, how close are we getting with some of this stuff? Because this 5.5, 6 inches, and look, fellas, ladies, this was a 10-inch event over 2 days that hit us. So what I'm seeing, the V-shaped ditches that we have out there are no longer, that might have been something back in the 70s and 80s that we needed, but I'm looking at a water bottom ditch now and a water bottom canal on some of these things that we need to look at. So, it's just, and I know with that amount of rain that hit us, it's really sometimes it's out of reach, but we have to start looking, 10, 20 years down the road that, these flash flood events are gonna come back up, and that's my 2 cents.
I figured you would ask me about Henderson, and I called Elos about 30 minutes before I got here. Look, he told me 3 weeks to a month.
Yeah,
Hopefully, we'll have a permit in hand for Henderson and Buret Ditch, the Boudreaux Bayou, and one other leg of a ditch down Pertrees Road that they didn't complete. We needed a permit for. So once we get that, we'll probably need to have some backing on some of the residents. There's some areas of mainly that Buret Ditch that we've been having problems with some landowners not allowing us in and vegetation has really choked it down on that upper branch of Burat Ditch.
Sure.
So, I definitely agree with you that that bottom width and cross-section proposed needs to be executed. So, we'll face that when we get there, but it's coming.
All right, great. So as far as the drainage report, any other questions? Anything from administration? And we finished up with Davin. Before we move on to general business, Cody, if you mind give me a hand with this, I would like to go ahead and add V, and we got to have executive session for the city of Sorrento and Cody and the parish president. I just want to give thanks. The parish president has been working very hard on this before we put this on the agenda. Mr. Robert and the entire group up here, I just want to let everyone know that, hey, look, thank y'all for reaching out and doing everything that you could do. But before we go into litigation here, we want to make sure we put it on the agenda. Cody?
Yeah, so, go ahead and do is entertain a motion to amend the agenda for the executive session. And what I'll do is I'll read the caption out to them, players can mark it in the minutes of the meeting, but it's, Town of Sorrento versus East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage Project number 1. Suit number 129239. 23rd Judicial District, Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana.
Motion to amend the agenda.
Moved by Mr. Johnny, second by Mr. Aaron. Any opposition?
Well, you need to open up public comment before you entertain
You're gonna open up?
Motion to open public comment?
By Mr. Aaron,
Second.
second by Ms. Terry. Any opposition? Not?
Motion to close public comment? I think I
Second.
close it. Yeah.
We got a motion and a second.
Do it by roll call vote.
Commissioner Robert,
Yes.
Commissioner Melanson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawler,
Yes.
Commissioner Cazzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Cagnolati,
Yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Yes.
and Chairman Lambert.
Yes.
Motion passed.
No opposition to it. Motion passed. We will add that last, that'll be V on the agenda. All right, before we head into general business, we have two speakers on A, flash flooding for discussion. Ms. Barbara Gresham, please come up.
Hi. My name is Barbara Gresham. I live in the city of Gonzales at 2020 South San Francisco Avenue. It is an established, an older neighborhood. It's Pecan Grove Estates. This is the second time I flooded in 4 years. Third time that it's threatened. And then this time it came in on the 6th. You know, an older subdivision like that, you wouldn't expect that kind of flash flood for, what did we get, 7 inches of rain, I think, 7 to 10, something like that. But this is just ridiculous. The water, it came in from all sides. If I look through the back of my property, Faith Tabernacle School is there, so I'm not familiar with the names of all the bayous, but that bayou backed up, coming across that field where Smith tanks are. That came up. There is, on Papera Road, it's not, if you're coming from the airline, it's not the first bayou, but it's the second one, and I'm not sure if that's even the same one, because they all snake around. It came from that way. Where my natural drainage is, which would go south, I guess, halfway through the rainstorm, it started coming backwards. Highway 30, it's at the end of South San Francisco. That was coming over the road on 30, so I got it from all sides. It just came across and came from everywhere. I got 3 inches this time. I got 14 inches in 2016. The only thing that saved my house from going even deeper, and my 2 neighbors, we were in the process of putting in a pool that didn't have water in it yet. So 25,000 gallons of water went in the pool at the time the rain stopped. So that took, I don't know how many inches it would level out to from coming into my place. If there's, if you have any information of drainage that's on the books to be dug in this area, but I wasn't the only one that flooded in that cul-de-sac. It's not a cul-de-sac, it's a very sharp U-turn, 90-degree curve where South San Francisco turns into Evergreen. And we flood back there. And 6 weeks ago, it was an inch from coming into my house. You know, it's a lot of older people that live back there. We can't do this every time. We just can't.
Well, thank you, Ms.
So I
Barber.
would like to see if it can be put on the books to look at it at least.
Thank you, Ms. Barber, and I would refer you back to Mr. Ron or whoever's district you live in. Please stay in contact.
Okay, it's
And,
District 10.
Can I get your, maybe your phone number, ma'am?
Yes. Area code 770.
All right, Randy, you had anything on flash flooding, or you wanted to speak on you? You, okay, Mr. Randy Clewett, please come up. Getting up kind of slow, man.
Huh? My left leg's kind of falling asleep there. I've been not taking part in a lot of motion here. Just real quick, I know what you got on you and large levy extension. Needless to say, all you guys that know me, y'all know how important it's been to me, but how important it is to the people of Santa Marta and the people of the lake area. Everybody from Gold Place north, large area, and I want to appreciate Ron and the administration, parish president, everybody, Cody, all you guys that are fighting hard right now. We've been fighting this battle for a long time. We've proved our point many times in reference to our project that we have. We proved it in reference to our project versus another project. And at some point, Dipsy, you and I, we worked real hard with the Pontchartrain Levy District. We developed over the years a good relationship with them. We brought some of the money that goes to the Pontchartrain Levy District back toward the parish. So there's millions of dollars invested here. Everybody's patience within the Pontchartrain Levy District is very good. They have worked real hard to work with our parish. And I just think it's time to make a move. We can't, we've got a lot of money invested. It's time to figure out what we're gonna do, and we appreciate you guys bringing that back. And, Ms. Cazzo, you've got your frog value that's sitting there. I know the Pontchartrain Levy District, they're meeting tonight, and, that's one of the things on discussion. So, once again, I wanna thank all you guys, the administration, the Drainage Board, all you guys, Davin, Ron, all y'all, and Cody, and all this board. Everybody has worked a long time. Some of you guys just picked up the ball 6 months ago, but I know y'all have had to work since then. So let's just keep moving forward. We got a good project. It's very viable, and it has good merit. And it's our belief that we will work with any parish. And we've reached out to every parish that we think we affect and offered to work with them. So it's time not to stop doing something in Ascension, for Ascension Parish. And I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Randy. Ms. Terry.
Ron and Randy, remind me when we applied initially, for this Laurel Ridge levy permit, and when did this project start? I know it was before me here, so
Oh, the original vision was back in the early 2000s, 2006, 2007.
Yeah, that's when it first hit the That's when it first.
Yeah, please, Randy, I'm sure you remember.
This project came up as far back as 2000, in the late 90s. And 2007, it was resurrected again. There was work in 2006, 2007. Chairman Lambert Dempsey was there at the time. In 2008, we made a move to push the project forward, take another direction. The first plot of this project, it meandered down Gold Place Road, Prince Road, and worked its way about 431 around White Cypress Swamp and worked its way all the way back. It followed the dry and wet zone. That was the preference of the Corps of Engineers of any project, to just stay in that zone. It didn't fly. It wasn't going anywhere. So we reconvened in 2008, on up into 2009, and looked for some new ideas, and we have the company representing that worked through the levee board, GSA, and looked for another approach. And the approach was to save money and go straight through the swamp. And we found a place where that was feasible, and we met in Washington, D.C., we met in New Orleans with the Corps of Engineers, and worked for several years to get that approved, and we got it approved. And within that, the scope growth. Chase you in the plant, we all have scope growth. You know, you start out with this, and so there was an opportunity to reach out and bring the levee more northern to a high ridge. And Wall Cemetery found a ridge over there that was high as heck, you know?
Yeah.
And worked the way up through that to get that ridge and get more people within this. And that's the final draft that you got here today. I just want to let everybody know that this project was approved by the Corps of Engineers several years ago. And that the fight you're fighting tonight and what you're going to be going into executive council to discuss and come out with a direction this project has been vetted more than probably the Mississippi River levee was vetted in the turn of the 19th century, okay? I'm just telling you. There's not an agency, there's not a group, there's not any agency in the state and the feds that actually took any more time to look. We went back. So everybody looked at it, and everybody approved it. And we've got some people that just don't agree with it at this time. Of course, we don't agree with a lot of things that's happening around the world also. But we do have control of this. We don't have control of the other things. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Randy. Anything else to litigation? We'll get there. We'll go on to A, the flash flooding. Ron?
Yes, thanks, Chairman. So we already kind of started in this direction with the administration and reaching out to some other resources for as our pumping station contracts. Those groups that have come in have been around other pumping stations, other parishes, and other ideas about drainage. So those field trips that you heard about opened our eyes up to out-of-the-box thinking a little bit. We're facing challenges that we've not seen in the past. Some of these rain events that we keep discussing are off the charts. You're getting rainfall rates of 5 inches in an hour and a half time. How do we deal with that compared to a infrastructure-driven parish that is designed to handle a 10-year event that's 8 inches of rain in 24 hours? So we're trying to get ideas and network some and branch out, get some ideas, and come back to this board and see what we can come up with for as recommendations for possible projects in the future and a method to do so. So we're just asking for you guys to bless us in doing that and give us the rein to go out and network.
Any suggestions tonight? Anyone has anything? Mr. Aaron?
And this may tie in to a later agenda item, but part of what I'd like to see is that we not just look at flash flooding. I mean, that's an obvious problem to the lady, we just heard her speak about that. But kind of like I said before, sometimes we can go fix a problem, and if we fix one problem, it may lead to flash flooding over here. If we fix a flash flooding problem over here, it may lead to long-term flooding in other areas. About 2 years ago, we started working on a floodplain management master plan. I believe that we really need to spend the time and the money on an overall master plan and modeling so we know exactly what we're doing and we have a long-term plan for this. Right now, I think we've got probably 14 different engineering projects going on with drainage issues all over. And a lot of what we see is we have drainage problems because 20 years ago, a subdivision was built or a road was built and it has an unintended consequence. I firmly believe that we need a master plan and we need an implementation plan, and I think that's coming up later on the agenda, but that it has to encompass flash flooding also, not just this, maybe, we're preparing for 10-year floods. Maybe we have to bite the bullet and start preparing for 25-year floods as our baseline, and I think that may be wiser to prepare and start drainage planning for a 25-year flood, and then also have some planning in there. And I'm not an engineer, I can't tell you the right or wrong way to do things. I'm more about the planning aspect of it is what I think we need, but for flash flooding. So I'd like to tie all of this into that. I'll save the rest of my comments for a later agenda item that I think would encompass this, but I believe it's all related. I don't think we can fix flash flooding without knowing what's going to happen on a regular flooding situation, if that makes any sense from a non-engineer.
Mr. Joe?
I think that flash flooding is obviously becoming more of an issue, and it's got a lot to do with development, it's got a lot to do with other things. And I feel like the field trip we went on today at the Jefferson Parish facility, and including what you were talking about with your empty swimming pool, I think that's a great direction to go into that won't cost a huge amount of money, is if we can have these smaller tracts of 10, 15, 20 acres of retention areas that we can pump and fill up to, say, take place of these huge developed areas. And the other thing that really impressed me was the data and the readily available information from their monitoring system, which was an in-house monitoring system which had exponential locations of which we have. And I think with the grasp of the rainfalls of what we're actually getting with those monitoring systems and, the combination of our pumps and maybe adding some of these different retention ponds and retention areas, we could combat these flash floods, because obviously they're not going away.
Aaron?
Ron, real quick, and I know we've kind of talked about this kind of thing before, is there anything the average homeowner can do on their property to help prevent, not just flash flooding, but flooding in general, whether it's keeping ditches clean, litter, that sort of thing? We hear about it all the time. People call us and say, hey, what can we do? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, just routine maintenance of simple things as far as a driveway pipe. We've seen a beach ball get stuck in them and cause the entire ditch to back up. So another thing we saw was an abandoned playhouse. The plastic of that gets in and floats. And, just common things that you would think about hurricane preparation, think about it as drainage. What will float? What will get blocked up? And if you see something blocked up, sometimes simple things as a rake going out and pulling something out of a pipe can alleviate 2-3 feet of water sometimes. So just the general observance of your property, and if you see something that you think you can fix or remove from an obstruction, that's the main thing, is keeping things open and maintenance as much as you can. We try as best we can to keep up, but 2,000, 3,000 miles of ditch, there are going to be places that get blocked up. So I would say, be observant and pay attention to what's happening. And if you can open it, open it. And it sometimes will prevent things from happening.
Sure.
Thank you, Ron.
Mr. President, I'm sorry, hold on. Mr. President?
So in some of these discussions that me and Ron had in this item on the agenda, so we had two events this year that were flash flood related. And we had one that we knew of that we prepared for, as everybody knows. Our biggest challenge is when the news or meteorologists don't tell us that we're getting 5 to 6 to 7 inches of rain in a very, very short period of time, 2 to 3 hours. If they're saying, yeah, you got a 90% chance of rain, and that's all the data we're getting. And so what we're finding is, out of all these different watersheds, one particular watershed is being impacted because that's just where that rain hit, and the city of Gonzales was the last one. Now, what citizens can do, as a prime example, was Park Vista had a playground plastic set hit one of the culverts. And our crews were just struggling with the force of that water and the pressure was holding that little plastic thing in front of that culvert. They could barely get it. These grown men yanking and pulling to try to get that culvert, that place that clear of that ditch to get that water out of Park Vista. And that's just one of the prime opportunities. And this is in the middle of the day when our crews are riding around. Often if that flood would happen at night, we probably wouldn't have seen it till the next morning. So it is very important that our citizens become aware of what's out there. We have, I know Councilman Lawler mentioned they had a plywood blocked in one of those culverts in the past, and that caused some flash flooding issues. So yeah, there is something residents can do to help us in eliminating some of those items. But for these flash floods, they're often us having to react as it's going on. And some of those items that we've brainstormed, which we would like to come back in more detail, is dry detention ponds or areas to hold this water until our bayous are clear or our pumps are turned on. Drainage right-of-ways for off-road. We're having situations where we can't access people's properties because we don't have the appropriate drainage. It only takes one parcel to block up an entire drainage ditch or canal. And we have got to go out and aggressively get this right-of-way like we do in Move Ascension. We have to treat it the same way. We have got to make sure that we have access to our drainage ditches and canals to clean them. If we don't, this is calling people to back up, and we get the calls. And, y'all do and we do. And so we have got to go out and aggressively seek right-of-way, and if we got it and get it through eminent domain, that's what we have to do because people are flooding. And we have got to get out and be able to clear these ditches and canals. GSI mapping of all of our drainage right-of-ways. That's one item we don't have. If we had that on our current system, builders could access it to know where to build and where not to. We have pole decks, we have fences, we have structures in our drainage right-of-ways. When we go to clean and they pop up over the weekend. I mean, these things are built over the weekend and now they're in our drainage structures and our tractors can't get around them. And so that would help eliminate having those structures built in there. And if they're built in them, we got to get them to remove them at their cost. And so that's another thing. I thought what was impressive about our Jefferson field trip was the rain gauges up to the minute rainfall. So we're not relying on the news channel, Channel 9 or Channel 2 to tell us. We're actually seeing it in real time, and so we can know better, man, we've gotten this much rain over this hour. We need to turn these pumps on. Because we're getting 15-minute delays on our USGS rain gauges, and by the time we warm up the pumps and have them turned on, an hour has passed. Well, we could have flooding during that hour. So the quicker we're able to respond, the faster, the more houses we'll be able to save. And so those rain gauges were impressive. That was all networked together for one central command center, so they could be watching that. Now, we noticed that the Jefferson pump station was manned 24/7. Don't know if we need to go there, but perhaps if we have a chance of rain over 70%, maybe it's worth having a crew there at the pumping station so that there's not the delay. Because what happens is, once we make that call, as we notice all of our ditches and canals swelling, and we got to turn the pumps on, that worker has to leave their house, they go to the barn, they clock in, they then drive to the pumping station, and then they start warming up the machines. That delayed time, we have to improve on that. It's inefficient, and we're thinking out of the box and adding chronos to the pumping station so they can go directly there. But maybe we need to have the discussion about manning during anytime that there's greater than a 70% chance of rain, whether even it's at midnight, is having a crew on standby. Not having to do 24/7, but at least having a crew there during these heavy rainfall times, just so that somebody's monitoring it. We may all be sleeping. Who's monitoring it? We can't stay up 24/7. So maybe during these situations, we can do that. Councilman Lawler mentioned it, modeling. I think that this 2D modeling concept, I think that's something that will help us spend money more wisely. It will allow us to look at not only large projects or large modeling, but also small projects. How does a smaller project in a high-dense area affect that area? What are going to be the cause and effect? And I think that will help us not only on the project side, but also on the regulation side. You know, maybe we need to go with maybe not 10-year, but 25 years, since we're getting more and more of these larger storms and a more intense storms in a shorter period of time. Maybe we need to reevaluate it. I think that modeling will assist us in utilizing that data to make those determinations. So these are some of the ideas we hope to further bring back to y'all in greater detail and cost and analysis the best we possibly can, so that we can show y'all and y'all can make the decisions on where we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Mr. Chase.
Oh yeah, just a few comments. A small part of the solution, or maybe a little bit, not a majority of the issue, is like on our field trips that we took, like to Jefferson, Mr. Arthur. You know, we were talking. We had this flash flood of rain coming down, 4 or 5 inches in an hour and a half time. And a lot of issue we fight is we're getting this rainfall in Galvez or Gonzales, and you look at the water gauges at the Marvinboro pump station, and the water's not there. You know, everybody's, the pump's on, or the pump's on. The water hasn't made it there yet. We can't, at some point, if the water's too low, we'll cavitate and burn these big expensive things up. And I believe our stateside road ditches are just abysmal across the parish. I know administration, and Davin and I have been having conversations, and we're trying to set up these meetings with DOTD to see if we can kind of, on some form, mirror like what we passed through finance a few weeks ago with the grass cutting and the litter abatement on the state highways. And I believe everybody will agree that, you know, on that deal, we're going to lose money. It's going to cost us money out of our pocket. But at what point do we have all these new parish ditches that are clean and beautiful and they're holding water, but once they hit the state highways, they're just deadheaded. And I just feel like if we continue to clean our parish ditches without addressing these larger state ditches that get to all these bayous and canals, we're just not doing everything that we can. And I know we are, you know, handcuffed with the DOTD and, you know, their servitude, their right of way. But I would like to try to have that open conversation with them to see if that's, you know, something we could take off of their plate. You know, maybe even if it's a one-time deal, let's address it once and we can come up with a better plan. And just to touch on a few other things that are the structures in servitude. We do need to start enforcing our servitudes, especially in the newer neighborhoods. You see all these neighborhood, these little 1/3 acre lots are backed up to each other. And we'll have a 30-foot servitude where they're all building fences on these property lines. And, you know, our DPW has a 10-foot section for a major drainage artery that 100 homes might go into. And now the only way for us to maintain that is guys in there with a shovel and a weed eater. And it's inefficient. You know, we have the servitude there for a reason. We need to do something with that issue. I don't have the answer here tonight, but I know it's things that we've discussed. And the 2D modeling. So a few weeks ago, Councilman Lawler, we were invited by HNTV to go a little presentation on just what they've done for us over the years, and kind of touched on a few things. And that was really my first experience with that 2D modeling of, if we put a structure here, you know, a neighborhood or a large building or a business, if you put a structure here, or water's going here, but now we know this is what it's going to do. You know, it's a pretty cutting edge modern stuff that, you know, I was kind of blown away with. But no, we don't have all the answers for flash flooding, but I do think, you know, everybody's being proactive into, you know, starting addressing these the best we can. Thank you.
Ms. Terry.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to see all of this progress being made, at least looking for solutions. But I want to remind everyone, I mean, I've just quickly looked up, Jefferson Parish is a larger parish than Ascension, almost double in area, 665 miles of area. Ascension is 303, so it's more than double. And their population is 432,000 people, and ours is a fraction of that, 126,000. So, you know, we need to make real sure when we are looking at what they are doing and what we are doing, that we are able to account for those differences and understand that, I hear people say all the time, well, it's development. Well, obviously Jefferson Parish is far more developed than Ascension Parish. And I don't know how many people are flooding in Jefferson Parish in a flash flood event. Not familiar with that. Has anybody, when they have a flash flood event, what kind of flooding do they have? Do these systems work in such a way that they don't flood in a 5-inch rain in 2 hours?
I would say that any system has limits, but they are not exactly like our drainage system.
Mm-hmm.
They are definitely two different dynamics. They have pumping stations within the same watershed, and they can monitor where events are happening within that and enact pumping stations where the rain event happens. Whereas we're limited to a stationary system
Right.
and only can control that watershed at that one base. So, yes, it's definitely two different things, and they are a different dynamic in, as far as how much scale of development is taking place in their parish. And one of the biggest things we noticed is their pumping stations are not navigable. They're completely shut off. So they are able to sucker dry and have it all the way pumped down, and they're not affecting anything for as navigation or anything like this. So I agree with what everyone said here, and I think that's where we're headed, is we know there's things we need to be looking at. And I think that it's all going to be based off of engineering and modeling what we come up with and vet. And everybody will be involved in those decisions. And I think that will be the basis of a start of a possible master plan type deal, where I don't know how far we go into it, but, that'll tell us, what is best for Ascension.
I agree. I'm fully supportive of a master plan. And I've asked the questions I asked tonight about Randy. The problem we have is not that we don't want to do something. The problem is how long it takes to do it. And so we have got to have help to get things done. We've been working with Randy since 2000, by his estimation, to get this Laurel Ridge levee done. I've been working since 2011 on Frog Bayou, Fish Bayou. Others have worked, I don't know how long they worked to get Henderson Bayou and Marvin Row pumping station. But we have to have some things done in a more timely fashion. And I do not believe that it is the governing authority that is resisting that. I don't know where the problem is. And I know that we have an administration at this point that is keen on getting this done. And so I'm begging you, when you need something, get it on this agenda and let's get it done. Because this delay is it's too long. It is taking too long. And we're blaming our problems on things that are not necessarily the cause of the problem. We cannot control how much it rains over Gonzales on a given day. We cannot control how much it rains over Dutchtown in a given day. But we can try to control how long this process takes to get a fix. And so I'm just urging you to continue down the path that you are going, and let's go get some of this stuff done. By the way, how many houses on these last two events, how many houses actually had water in them in these last two flash flooding events?
what was reported in, mainly, as Clint said, was in the municipality of Gonzales. That's really where the heart of the storms hit. We have records of around 40 from the city of Gonzales. And there were several others in the parish that we've heard about, but confirmed around 40.
Okay, so that's another problem, we need to know how many houses flooded, and so that because one house, I'm sure we would all agree, one house is too many. But we also need to be able to do a post-event here and understand if the piece of the swing set was blocking the culvert, that caused it, so we don't have a lack of understanding, nor does the public, about what we have done, how much effort has been put forward, and what problem caused the particular flooding at the particular place. I mean, we want government to stay out of our lives, but folks, I agree with someone who said it earlier, you got to go look at your own culvert. You can't wait for parish government to come make sure that your beach ball isn't in your culvert. I mean, we have got to be personally responsible, and then government has to step up and get behind doing whatever we need to do to get these things built that we need. If there's more technology we need, I don't think anybody on this body has ever been opposed to buying whatever we need to operate whatever pumping system we have. So you will have our support. Thank you for all you're doing.
Mr. Johnny.
Yeah, I'll echo what Terry said about utilizing what we have. Thank you, Mr. President, for taking these field trips, because we can certainly learn from our neighbors without having to invest a whole lot of money in consultants or whatever we would use. But I learned a lot today on that trip. I really did. And as you said, it's enlightening to me to hear you say that, and we all agree, if we can streamline the process to get those pumps working, that time is of the essence to get that water moving out of this basin, any basin in Ascension Parish, so that it can, minimize the potential for flooding. So anything we can do, and I think we got a taste of what could be done. It's not going to be cheap, but it's going to require a lot of technology and application. But I think the 2D models are going to help us just determine where is the most significant areas in the parish that we need to give attention to, whether it's a flash flood or just a normal heavy rain or a hurricane event. So I think we're going in the right direction. It's not going to happen overnight, but I think we've been enlightened by what we saw. And these flash flood events, who knows, they may not happen for a while. They may continue to happen quite often, but we're in Hurricane Alley without a doubt. So that we're going to get some of that. But with these flash flood events, it's just that the weather patterns have been kind of funny, but they're dumping a lot of rain on Ascension Parish. But I'm enlightened by what I'm hearing today. I think this body will approve, work with you any way we can to move the parish forward and try to, and encourage, like Terry said, we need to encourage our residents to do their part. And we can't do everything. We can't hold their hand for every little thing that comes along. Hurricane season, do an outreach, put it on the website. We encourage all residents, look at your ditches, look at your culverts. We're entering hurricane season. If something's blocking your culvert or ditch, it's not gonna let the water out. Just things like that. But that'll be it. Thank you.
Mr. Mike.
I just want to kind of piggyback on what Ron and Terry and then Mr. John just said in terms of the beach ball thing. I mean, it's litter in general. I mean, we actually had a major discussion at the last council meeting about litter and how we are paying people to pick up litter in the parish right now. I mean, to me, that just kind of blows my mind that we have so much litter that we have to hire people to pick it up. So I guess my thing would be, if citizens are asking what's some of the things we can do, well, let's pick up after ourselves. Let's pick up our litter, because I mean, when I jog my subdivision, I've pulled 2 T-shirts out of one of the drains in my subdivision today. I mean, just little things like that. Like if you see something, just pick it up and throw it away. I mean, that's I guess my little nugget is let's just kind of all be responsible for our areas,
Mr. Joe.
I did want to make one point. We are talking about having them clean out culverts and whatnot, reaching out to the public. I do want to point out, if it is raining and we do have an event going and you have this beach ball or something that you might not think of, and there's a lot of volume on one side of that water and that pressure can pull somebody into that culvert and drown you. Seriously, I mean, so just be
Yeah.
careful when you are doing that and make sure there's somebody around.
Very, very good discussion, and also, Ms. Terry, you really brought up, the amount of structural flooding with Jefferson, let's face it, this is elevation 0. We start out at elevation 4 and go up to somewhere 18 in the northern end of this parish. Jefferson Parish is at 0. I mean, let's, I can promise you, in this last event, they didn't have 40 structures that flooded, okay? They, and I think from years ago, parish president, his dad, my grandfather, a lot of people went to Jefferson Parish, and I think a lot of the ideas were from Jefferson Parish. So, I really think that we're gonna pick up a lot of this, and these folks at elevation 0, and here we are, we can do better, so I think a lot of good things are coming out of it. With anything else on flash flood? If not,
I'm Thomas Pittman, I'm your drainage engineer. I just want to tell you about the flash flooding. And you're right, we designed for 10-year, 25-year, and some box culverts are even 100-year. Ron and I got together Monday after this flash flood on the 6th. One gauge had 100-year intensity. All the rest of the gauges had 1,000+ year intensity. Now, flash flooding and that intensity, we have the pumps, we have this and whatever. We just have to realize that, Mother Nature, sometimes, I hate to say it, but sometimes that's going to happen. Now, as far as Jefferson Parish, and I'm bragging a little bit, the pumping station y'all went to, I built. I was with Pittman Construction, and it's a wonderful system down there. But what, Miss Terry, what you have to realize, Jefferson Parish, like we have New River or some of the big canals, they have drainage ditches that are canals. In other words, along Jefferson Highway, the whole neutral ground is a big drainage ditch. They have Sonia Canal, they have and that, they have a very good system. Now, we have a lot of laterals. I was very impressed when I came work here, we have quite a lot of laterals and ditches, canals. But I think you are on the right track with the field trips and everything. Let's see more about Jefferson Parish and see what we can do, to maybe mimic it a little bit or whatever. But I just wanted to get up here and just to let you know that sometimes we've had 2 terrible flash flooding events in a month and a half. And look, like you said, one house is too many. But the parish didn't do that bad in those tremendous flash flood events. So we're doing something right, we just need to do a little more.
Ms. Terry?
Thank you so much for your comment. I agree with you, and I hope I didn't miss my point in when I was saying that. I know any house flooding is too many. However, sometimes you're going to get a rain that you just can't prevent it. It is isolated. You could not have predicted it. All you can do is have the technology to gauge it when it happens, but you cannot have predicted it. So that is something I think we just have to be working toward, and I'm thrilled with what I'm hearing. I had a conversation years ago with an engineer who shared with me, and you can probably elaborate some on this, and perhaps later if it's necessary. If we had to build all our ditches to accommodate a 100-year rain event, what the cross-section of those ditches would look like.
First of all, you wouldn't have enough area.
Thank you. That was his point.
Secondly, you would not have enough money, because you got a cost-benefit ratio.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? I can build a 100-story skyscraper in California that'll withstand a 10 Richter scale, but you can't pay for it. We have to realize the cost-benefit is a big issue of design, Okay, we're gonna do the best we can, but, and like you said, all those ditches, if you make them 50-year, the roadside ditches, you'd have to move power lines, you'd have to move cables, you'd have to infringe on a lot of homeowners' lots. It's just, that's not the feasible way to do it. You know, now, maybe more than 10-year, we can certainly look into. But again, when you get, 6 inches of rain in an hour and a half, and then that was only that was the heaviest part of that day. Like, that day also had another one that was maybe 3 inches an hour.
Right.
You just can't get rid of that water quick enough. So I want to commend you, and I want to commend all of us for doing a pretty good job. And, you know, some jobs you just can't, or some things you can't conquer totally. I just wanted to bring that up about the intensity, because I want all the people listening to know that, you know, it wasn't just a little light rain. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you coming up, Mr. Pittman. Glad to see we're retaining, getting people from other areas here that have the expertise. Okay, with that, we'll move on to general business B. We have hazardous mitigation grant program, Ms. Martha. I know you just ready to get up here and handle all of these.
I'm ready, gentlemen. Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We're excited. I think at the last council meeting, John Diaz reported to y'all that we were awarded $1.6 million for a national grant that we've gone out for 3 years. So we're every year we'll have something in there to try and get these homes out of repetitive loss. On this one, what we have to do tonight is, I have 10 of them. I'd like to read the first one with the motion and then abbreviate the others behind it.
Good.
We have to put the site number plus 3 numbers or numbers behind it, because this is confidential information.
Sure.
And so therefore, that's how it's going to be done, okay? So do you want one?
Go ahead, Mr. Martha, you worked on this long enough.
Okay. On item B, Site 1-218, request approval of East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 to enter into a corporate endeavor agreement with homeowner for elevation of Site 1-218 in the amount of $186,888 for a 90-10 split between the homeowner and the federal government in accordance with FEMA's regulations at no cost to the parish, and to authorize the parish president, Clint Quintmore, to sign and execute all documents pertaining to this CEA, and Ms. Gwen LeBlanc for CFO for financial.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Joel, second by Mr. Johnny. Discussion. Any opposition? Not. Motion passed.
Okay, I'm going to go to Site 2-330. This is in the amount of $132,200.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Chase, second by Mr. Michael. Any opposition? Any discussion? Not. Motion passed.
All right, Site 3,
Motion.
1126.
Have a motion by Ms. Terry, second by Mr. Michael. Discussion. Any opposition? Motion passed. Ms.
Site
Martha.
4,
Motion.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Joel, second by Mr. Johnny.
And I know y'all are going fast. Ms. Martha, you getting everything you need in the record that you need?
yes, because it's written and it's
Okay.
in,
And
Ms.
she
Liz
did
has,
the first task.
Just making sure, Ms. Liz, make sure you marking it down so she can get what she needs to FEMA.
okay, it will be in the minutes. Everything is written down. I believe y'all had a something in there, so you had a little beforehand. Okay, Site 5 is.
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Terry, second by Mr. Joel. Go ahead to number 6.
Okay, number 6.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Michael, second by Mr. Johnny.
Okay. Number 7,
Motion.
By Mr. Chase. Second by Mr. Johnny.
Okay, on number 8. I need-
Motion.
Second.
Whoa, whoa. Number 8.
Need to,
I
need to
need to
make
make
sure we
sure that there is a distinction of this. Number 8 is 100% instead of the 90-10.
Motion.
Second.
By Mr. Aaron, second by Mr. Chase.
Number 9,
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Joe, second by Mr. Johnny.
and number 10.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Johnny, second by Mr. Chase. Discussion, Mr. Chase.
Just a phenomenal job. You got $1.6 million for 10 homeowners to raise their home. You're gonna sleep really good tonight. Thank you, Ms. Martha.
This has taken about 2 years. These projects are available yearly, but it takes me almost for our group, and it's a team effort. It really is. I mean, I'm only as good as what the people that support us, administration and the finance and those type of people. It's got to work together. Our drainage, all of this is coming out of drainage. So, but if we have another one that's 1.3 million, that for 2019, it's been approved by the state, and now it's in FEMA. So we'll go through an RFI for those 10 or so. That will be in the next one. We'll be applying for 2020. And as long as we can keep going, we will.
Right.
So,
Any other discussion? Ms. Martha?
Thank you.
Any
You're welcome.
any opposition? None? Motion passed. Thank you so much.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. We're gonna go to New River Drainage Improvement. Mr. Ron?
Yes, just an item for discussion, the New River Drainage Project for rebidding the project. I would like to bring Davis Cole up to discuss the method of moving forward.
Good evening, I'm Davis Cole with Associates, with engineer on the project. Guess you want to give a little small history and then
Yeah, I could kind of
going forward?
go over
Okay.
timeline of how we got to where we are today a bit here.
Okay.
So the project was bid and let, and through that process, it came up when the contractor that was awarded the contract went out in the field and started to mobilize and get ready to do the construction of dredging New River. The wetlands came in to be a factor of not being able to do the project without impacting the wetlands. And so, there was a construction site meeting in the field to discuss the concerns. And it was agreed by everyone that it would probably be best if we just go on and mitigate the wetlands and get them out of the scope of the project, where the excavation needed to take place. So there was a time delay, with the project to get the wetlands mitigated. That did take place. We were able to achieve that with the Corps and get those wetlands mitigated. And then once we got ready to go back to construction and remobilize the contractor, that's a really fast overview of it, but that's kind of where we were at. We remobilized him. He opted out of the contract and was able to terminate the contract. So whenever that happened, it was right around the timeline of the administration change. And with that, sort of as it is, there was opportunity there to relook at some things. And it originally was bid with taking the weir out at Walmart and dredging New River. But after some time of really evaluating this further, and some of the flash flooding type events that we've seen in the field conditions, we've noticed some areas that drain and react to these weirs being in place. And the whole point of removing the weirs or even looking at them is because upstream of them, when we do a drawdown at Marvin Bro pumps, you cannot control the water upstream of those weirs. everything upstream all the way to St. John Church at 73 and New River all the way through Gosmer stays elevated at elevation 3, at the elevation of those weirs. So there are benefits of that water being behind the weir, meaning the fact that maintenance-wise, the banks are narrow enough to where we can go and mow them and maintenance them. If we drain them down, that's going to lower the water elevation. The standard pool level of elevation will then be about 2 or 2.5 feet lower than it currently is today if you just pull the weirs, meaning that the existing slopes will be that much further down and we'll have to mow that much more. And then the upper branches of New River beyond the scope of the dredging would then be drained. And the bottoms of the channels and whatnot past the scope of the project possibly grow up in willow trees and vegetation that our maintenance equipment may not be able to reach and maintain, whereas today it stays full of water and those type of vegetative plants don't grow. So we looked at all of that and President Quintmall came in and had the idea of that already. He was very concerned about pulling the weir and the project being let with pulling the weirs and the stench of the sewer that's below the water, and the wildlife that may be impacted if you just pull the weir, and the maintenance concerns of all of this, and the drainage benefits of possibly putting a control structure in the weir. So once we started looking at this, the weirs have never failed, and they've been there, and they've served their purpose of holding water back. So we also turned up a historical document of when the original drainage vision was being laid out for the Marvinboro pumping station in the parish. They actually have a diagram of those dams in that historical documents from, I think it was the early 80s. And what did they ironically show is control structures in the weirs. So it was in the vision way back when to have control structures in those weirs that would give you the ability in a drawdown period to be able to release these valves and let the water up branch of the weirs in Gonzales and Prairieville and all of that to be able to draw down to the elevation that you pump the Marvinboro down. We don't know why, but they never were put in the weirs. They're just dams. So with that support of the vision being there and the theories of us putting a valve or control structure in the weirs, we're pretty well confident that, one, we will maintain the existing maintenance program that we have on the upper branch of the weirs, and we will also gain the ability to implement a drawdown of our 72-hour preparation for a hurricane or a storm. We will be able to add that to that plan. Go release the valves and let the upper branch go down with the drawdown. And then after the event's over, you shut the valves back, and the weirs will do what they do today. But dredging it will, when you do the drawdown, you will get the benefit of being able to get that water from the upper branch to the dams, because currently it's all silted in. So the valves won't function at a standalone installation. You need to do the dredging to be able to get the water out of the Goudine and the upper branches of the scope of the project to get to the dams. So where we're at right now is we need to look at where we want to go for is rebidding the project. And we've been in contact with the Corps of Engineers with the concept of installing these control valves in the weir. They have very little to no concern with seeing that being able to be done. We just need to get them cross sections and a diagram of how they would be placed in the weirs, and we have that. Davis Cole's done that, and the justification, the reason why, and most of that is what I just went over with you guys. So we're looking to rebid this project, but at the same time, move forward with getting the control valves put into the permit and leave the weirs. And that will give us the ability to do drawdowns for flood control, but also up branch of the weir or the upstream of the weirs, we'll be able to maintain the existing maintenance plans that we have in place, and we won't see those areas go dry and start growing in willow trees and things that would then obstruct drainage. So that's sort of where we are, is we need to move forward with with bidding for the dredging of the project, but also moving forward with getting the core what they're asking for. And the end product would be that we would leave the weirs in and have control valves in them to be able to participate in part of the drawdown process. We'd be able to have that function there. Oh, yeah, sorry, I do have what they call a Waterman gate valve is what we're proposing to use here. We have these at several of our sites in our levees and our pumping stations. We actually keep one on hand in case we do have a failure. I have one valve and a pipe on hand, so we could in-house go out and install one of these valves in one of the weirs. We would like to do that at the Smith Bayou location on the upper branch of the limits of the construction. And what that will do is it'll do twofold. It'll give us the opportunity to run calcs on it. When you open the valve, we'll know right off how many hours it takes, say by T. Duplessis Road. You always hear about that branch of the Goudin area taking water in Bayou Grande South and Bayou Grande North. When we open this valve, we'll immediately be able to run a calculation of how many hours it takes to drop that water at 1 foot at that area. And so we'll then have that knowledge, and at the end of the process, we'll be able to implement an operation plan of how many valves we need and, the timeline and what it would take to drain it down. So we do have this in hand to go do one of these valves at little to no
Sure.
cost.
Ron, would you like to let him show the, you want to let him show the construction? Do you have the
I
the
do.
diagram?
have the
Yeah.
Diagrams, yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely. Yep. I don't know how to work this. This one? Yeah, maybe. All right. This is the location at the existing New River Weir, which is kind of by the Walmart. And as you can see, there's, what they're talking about are two pipes that go around the weir. You can see it a little better in the section view with a gate at the end. Let me just put up the section here real quick. All right. These being the gates right here, and at the ends of the weir, as the as the slopes kind of start coming back up, and then some catwalks to access the weirs, and just manually. I mean, you can put a motor on it, but initially it'd be a hand operated sort of situation, from what I understand. And the next one would be at Smith Bayou Rear. It looks like a rock dam weir, but apparently there is a sheet pile wall in there somewhere.
There's a sheet pile.
Same sort of idea, just smaller. And that's what that one would look like. So the bottoms of the gates would be at an invert that would be at the bottom of this scheduled new dredged bottom elevation of New River, which I believe is a -2. Yeah. So you'd, in theory, be able to empty the entire canal at those points.
I'd like to make a motion, Chair.
Let's get a little discussion. Mr. Johnny?
Do you have anything else to add?
I just passed out this item here, this map here that shows, all the areas that are impacted by the New River. It's a watershed. It kind of keys into, the discussion earlier as to who all is impacted by, a project of this magnitude. It's a good bit. It's the areas in shaded blue right there.
Any other discussion on the new road? Mr. Johnny?
Yeah, I guess Ron or Davis, either one of you, the discussions have been that you have been in communication with the Corps, but we don't have any permit modification approval. We have nothing from the Corps to go forward with this plan, but we already have in hand a permit to do the dredging, right? Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's correct,
Okay.
yeah.
With that in mind, my thought would be to rebid the dredging and then see what happens with the Corps. And in the rebid package, put in alternatives. My understanding is we can go up to 3 alternatives when we go out for a bid. And I would say leave the weir, build a new flood control structure as when this first came out, Mr. President, you talked about a very, substantial flood control structure that was cheaper than the ones we had previously gotten, quotes on, and install it just below the weir or whatever. The dredging is going to begin at the upstream end. Is that correct, Mr. Davis?
Yes,
Cole?
yes.
And work this way. When we get there, by that time, the Corps will have given us the okay to do what y'all propose, or to put in a substantial flood control structure. And then we could remove the weir. I think removal of the weir is already in the permit. Is that correct?
It's in the permit, yeah.
So,
We put in there to remove the weir at Walmart and at Smith Bayou. I'm of the opinion it doesn't mean you have to do it, it's just permitted to do it.
okay. You don't have to permit, okay.
That's my opinion.
That's my recommendation, I'd like to go out for rebids to start the dredging, and with that in place,
The dredging's
we'll have to
absolutely,
wait to see what the Corps does, whether they allow it or not. I'm not against saving money, but I don't want to hold this thing up any longer. As Terry said, we
Do it.
get things, it takes us forever to get the permits. When we get it, then we had another hiccup with the wetlands. And now we've got everything green light to go forward, so we need to move on this. That's all I have to say.
Mr. President's got some more discussion.
Go ahead.
Yeah, our intention is to move with the dredging as fast as possible. This has been delayed too long. H. Davis Cole's aware of this. And so this adjustment to this valve, if we can get it amended in there, we can do that within a month. And we'd actually have it for this hurricane season. But nonetheless, our intention is to move forward with this drainage as quickly as possible. So we're in that is the message we have sent to the Corps. And so, having those options, my feeling is now they have knowledge. I have extensive conversations with them, talking about the impacts of pulling the weir, not only to the canals, but to the wetlands that adjoin them, and running those dry, which they normally don't, the impacts of them, wildlife, fish kills, all of that. So we explained the amount of erosion that would occur if we pulled the weirs. We have, property damage. So we've had that discussion with them. They completely understand. We've showed them the original document, the historical document on the vision. They're in full support of that. So we have no intention. We want to move forward with the dredging as soon as possible. I had a discussion with many of y'all of contracting that out, not using having our crews work on other projects so we can get as much done as possible. We're in full support of that. So, yeah, this is no intention of holding anything up on the dredging. Now, this is a priority for us to get that dredged as soon as possible.
I just want to add, as far as from the Corps standpoint and environmental impacts, what you have now, if we were able to put the valves in, you'd be able to maintain ecologically what is there now. And you've already gotten permitted the worst-case scenario, which is completely removing them and having a negative ecological impact. So I'm with the President. I don't see how that would possibly be a problem with the Corps. My only concern is the time frame. Anytime we get them involved, it seems like it's 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, because I know the Corps said they require a 45-day public
Yeah,
notice,
if they do
regardless.
require the public comment period and all that.
Public comment period, 45 days, whether it's a major or minor, they're gonna have to make that decision. If they say it's a major modification, it'll be at least a 45-day comment period.
In my
And they
mind,
haven't
they've already-
given us an answer on that.
In my mind, they've already permitted the worst-case scenario from an ecological standpoint, so I don't understand
Sure.
why
Yeah.
you would need the public comment, but, they make their own rules, it seems sometimes, so.
Mr. Aaron?
No, President Quinmore, I think you made a great decision. You keyed on what I was going to talk about, is that we contract this out to preserve our drainage employees, to let them go do more work around the parish. We have the money within drainage, and I think it's a great decision, Mr. President, because this is just going to expand the amount of work we can do if we contract this out.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to resubmit for bid. And also ask administration to move forward, working with the Corps on y'all's valves.
Second?
Look, just to make it clear before, Mr. Johnny had mentioned adding alternatives to the bid. Is that y'all intention as the board?
What you got in mind, Kay? Yeah.
With up to 3 alternatives.
Well, and then I guess the second question would be for engineering and for the administration on that. Are y'all to the point where y'all could go out for bid with alternatives, or is there more design work that needs to be done?
We could go out to bid right now with the option of having the parish installed the pipes. the pipes and weir gates around, which is y'all's intention, correct, to self-perform that work?
Sure,
Mr. Chairman?
Vice President.
Chair?
Sure.
So in talking with the Corps, as far as the gate valve, we have already satisfied all their requirements. All we just got to get the information to them, which we all have completed. So we just get that to them, and that's done. There's no engineering there. We would actually put it in ourselves. So the alternatives, I'm not aware if that would require additional engineering, and it may. They said they would amend the contract that is a minor change and not have to do the public notice. That's what we were told. Now, could they change their mind? Absolutely. But that's not what I was told. Told that they would go ahead and amend the contract so we could go out for bid with the amended gate valve and the weir and not pull the weir. So that's what I was told. But like I said, they could change their mind, but that's what I was told.
Well, one of my concerns is that this has been, it's a concept, but it's not an engineered concept that this is gonna work. Some calculations were made about measuring the flow and all that, but we haven't applied the HNTV model to this that I know of, and it's not engineered. The drainage project is engineered and approved and permitted with removal of the weir. That's what we got, not installing anything. I questioned Mr. Cole, if we went forward and said, put in a major flood control structure, build it below the weir, and when it's built and ready to operate, remove the weir, and it'll function as the control structure for everything upstream. I'm talking about the one at Walmart. So I would like to see that. If the Corps doesn't approve, for whatever reason, the installation of valves, I'd like to have an alternative bid to put the flood control structure in there. Obviously, we got to keep in mind, it's got to all come under budget, you know.
Yeah. As
Sure,
far as,
Pastor.
yeah, as far as the budget, we're good because we're doing this in-house, and I mean, the cost is minimal. I just caution, once you pull the weirs, it's a major fix. And put these things back and put a new one in place. The cost savings is in the millions on the gate valve. It was in the original design, means it was engineered. It was looked at, it was considered. It was looked at by the Corps of Engineers who approved that plan. So this is not new, this wasn't come up my term, this was since the 1980s that they asked for control structures and floodgates. And what that does is, it allows them to decide which way they want water to flow. Whether they want it to go down New River or when they want to go to Smith to Francois, and allow them the control of that, just like Jefferson Parish does with their manual pumps and gates and things. So this was in the original design. So it was engineered. It was looked at by the Corps, and it was accepted. I don't know why they didn't put it in. I have no idea. They should have, because we could have been utilizing them all this time. But it will stay under budget because it will be done in-house. The delay, I can only say, we're ready to get the information into them, ready to amend it. They said no public, we could just get it amended and start
Sure.
quickly, which is my intention.
Discussion, Mr. Aaron.
I was gonna let John finish.
In that case, I don't object to trying, okay? But it's, where I'm uncomfortable, it's not engineered and it's not modeled. What we proposed for the original bid, which was just to remove the weir and do the dredging, was permitted and approved. We ran into a project, problem with the wetlands. And that's been all mitigated, it's all taken care of. So we can go forward with the dredging. I say we do that. If you want to call that a separate bid and then say we're going to go out later to bid for the installation of the pipe and valves or the, I guess you say the flood control structure in lieu of the pipe and valves, that's one thing, but I don't want to hold it up anymore. So getting the dredging started, that's going to take, what, 6 months minimum?
I mean,
Once they start?
theoretically, we could advertise as soon as in a week or two.
I'm talking about the actual construction.
The actual construction, realistically, 3 months. Yeah, you have a
So-
30-day bid period and.
Like I said, if we can, let's move forward with something and we can, I'd like to get it all done in the same package. It would be nice to know where we're going to go from the get-go. But at a minimum, let's get this dredging done.
All right, Mr. Aaron.
Yeah, the only concern I have now is that if this was engineered 20 years ago, is that still good? I mean, everything I've learned about engineering is you have a lifespan on those. That something engineered 20 years ago, I can tell you, the drainage has changed a lot in Ascension Parish in 20 years. I think we'll all agree on that. We have now the capability to do 2D modeling of, I know that area is extensively modeled. I'd like to see this run through the 2D model before we decide to do anything, any of these changes, because I don't, maybe I'm wrong, we've got a lot of engineers in here, but it's my understanding that 20-year-old engineering plans are not sufficient in this day and age. We need something more recent if we're going to do that. So I think that's something, I prefer that. We not do anything with the valves and everything until we have it engineered or re-engineered maybe, and we model this. I think it'll just be a lot safer, because once again, we just talked about it. Without modeling this, we don't know what the unintended consequences are. We don't know what could happen and what won't. We have the ability to do modeling, and what's in this should all be part of a master plan. And we're getting there. We're not there yet.
Mr. Joe?
I feel like we're trying to solve an issue and hurting ourselves in the process. My first question is, do we have a second, or do we have an amendment on the table for changing this, as far as adding these other bids?
Because we're trying to get the structure installed, with the gate valve and the pipe and rebidding. So, no, we don't have anything yet. We just still are discussing, discussion.
Okay. I mean, my view, my perception from what's going on here, I mean, if anything, we're changing the scope of the work that's already permitted. I say we move forward with it as it is. If we separate the bid and we do all these other bids, it's bound to add just as much time to the project as us waiting and moving forward with the work. I mean, if they're ready to do the work, we have all the information there, let's move forward, do more, use our time more wisely. I mean, let's get some stuff done.
Well, look, this is the point I was trying to bring out, just for clarification's sake for everybody, is obviously it sounds like y'all all on board with moving forward with the dredging portion of the project, but what happens to the weir is still in discussion back and forth. And when you say you want to go out for rebid, the original scope of work had removing the weir in it. So all I'm suggesting is you put alternatives in this bid, and you isolate the weir out of the original bid, and then you guys can figure out in the future between the administration as to how y'all want to handle that. But if you just go out for a pure rebid, the weir's coming out. And doesn't sound like that's y'all intention at this point in time. Y'all want to get the dredging going and then come back to the table on what to do with the weir. So that's the only clarification I'm trying to make with the alternatives, that is written in a way that the scope of work is what y'all actually want to do now and not necessarily what was approved a year ago.
Sure. Mr. President?
So these gate valves exist all over the parish. They already do. They have them in Sorrento, they have them in City of Gonzales, they're all over. What you're doing is you're just pulling the water down. It would be like saying you need to model the Marvin Brook Pumping Station watershed before you turn the pumps on again. All you're doing is opening the valve and reducing water level. You're not damaging anything, you're just drawing down past the weir. It is that simple. I mean, it's just plumb simple. Okay, it doesn't require engineering, it doesn't require modeling. Allows you to just, when you turn on the pumps, you're pumping down past the weir to reduce the elevation 3 to a lower elevation that handles the 3 branches of Goudine, New River. It's just not in any form or fashion complicated. Thank you.
Mr. Chase?
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna amend my motion. I would like to resubmit the bid for dredging only, and then we want to have a crack at installing our valves in the existing weir. Is that what administration would like to do? That's my motion.
And that's my recommendation. There's really no harm in that. You can go ahead and start the dredging work now while, administration.
We can always come back and if
always
this
come
isn't
back with another
sufficient, we can
structure.
always come back and address the weir.
But look, you can bid it in a way that gives you the option to do whatever you ultimately decide to do. So you're gonna go forward with the dredging, and then your alternatives will be remove the weir, leave the weir, or do another project at the weir, whatever is ultimately decided to do. So I'm just saying, structure your motion in that way to bid it with those alternatives, and then the administration can work up the alternatives
Right.
on how to move forward.
Davis will most likely have to put a clause in the bid package that says means and methods of construction will be need to be determined around the weirs being in place, meaning that if you need to dewater, you need to think about not utilizing the removal of the weir to do so.
Right,
So,
and that- yeah. And that wasn't, I mean, the previous contractor was gonna work upstream down, so really weren't counting on that anyway, so. So I don't see any real harm in it. We'll obviously have in there that the weir's gonna remain.
If we do get one of these valves installed, the actual contractor could probably utilize it some to, you know, remove some water out of his construction site.
Start digging, yeah. So we have a motion, amended motion from Mr. Chase. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Terry.
Just to include alternatives, right?
So wait, just so we're clear, Chase's does say includes alternatives, right?
Yeah, we'll have the right to adjust the weir however
Okay.
we feel fit, right? And this is gonna get the bid out ASAP on the dredging.
Yeah, the base bid is understandable, will be just leaving the weir in place, letting the contractor know that the parish may be installing this valve situation with its own forces. You know, I don't know what the next alternative would be, maybe removing the weir or whatever.
Okay.
Okay, just want to make
Flood
sure.
control structure.
Yeah, or flood control.
That's
We have a motion and a second on this.
All right.
Any further discussion? None. If any opposition? Motion passed. Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Thank you.
All right, covered policy, Mr. Ron.
Yeah, we've brought this to you guys several times now, and we feel like we have a draft ready to go for us, bringing it to the council to bring it to the next step for us, getting it in ordinance. You'll see in a few later items on the agenda, you know, if we get asked for certain things that are more or less more than a routine maintenance or a driveway improvement due to maintenance that we need to fix in-house, we're gonna bring those items to you, as far as if people are wanting specific items addressed towards their specific issues. So we feel like this will be something that will be in place to get a consistent response to the public, and it'll establish it in code, and we'll apply it to all the scenarios that come forward about culverts. But the next step in this, if moved on tonight, we will then go to planning and development to establish what they need to bring to the council to establish these permit fees and the structures for that as well to parallel this moving into the code.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second.
You have a motion and a second, Mr. Johnny and Mr. Michael. Discussion. Any opposition, discussion, Mr. Chase?
I know we had a bunch of conversations about this, but I think this is probably the best put together draft that I think we've discussed. It looks like Cody doesn't have quite the heartburn he had the last time we discussed it. You look a little happy with it, so look, this wasn't whenever you hear culvert installation ordinance, it doesn't sound like much, but it's a hot topic and it's tough. So look, I like it. I'm impressed.
Living document, if we need to edit it, change it, we'll come back to you guys, but we need to start now. if
Sure,
possible.
sure. All right, with that, any opposition to the motion? None? Motion passed. We'll go to N, approval to provide labor to install culverts. Mr. Ron?
Councilman Dempsey, this is in your area in Greenfield, as you know. If you don't mind, John, you could bring that slide back up. I'll show you a photo of this, and this is some of the things that we see out in the public. In this particular area, if you look to the photo in the left of the screen, is a catch basin, and it was completely full, no drainage left, and you can see the line of pipe is the old metal pipe scenario, rotted pipes. And you can see in the photo on the right, once we got into digging up and excavating where we thought we could find a problem, I mean, the bottom line is the pipe had to come out. There's no drainage. This landowner has agreed to purchase pipes. We had to put an open ditch to get this open back up. One, their drainage was not flowing, and two, their plumbing was tied into the drainage box, so everything was not functioning.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Mr. Aaron.
Second.
Second by Mr. Michael.
Who's that good-looking guy in that picture?
Any discussion?
I do have one question.
Yeah, I got a quick question.
Go ahead, Mr. Chase.
No, I think Mr. Mason was first.
You can go. Go ahead.
Right, just real quick, so based off the culvert policy, we wouldn't normally do this, right?
Well, there's a clause in there that says request can be brought to the Drainage Board
Okay.
for expending funds on those specific frontages like this. And that's where on another item coming up next, you'll see another one coming up. And that's where we need to be consistent with this policy moving forward. If we're gonna do this, that's where we.
I mean, we're setting a precedence right now, correct?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay.
And I told the gentleman that lives here that I could not make the call to tell him that the parish would set his pipes back, that I would need to bring that to you guys for a vote and authorization to do this. So, yes, you would be if people buy the pipes and you put it back. It's work that we would have to do in-house.
And we're gonna be putting it back at the appropriate elevation. Mr. Mason?
Ron, I was just I think Chase touched on this in one of the previous meetings we had earlier this year, and I was just kind of thinking about it. And open ditch versus culvert. I mean, obviously culverts are needed for driveways, but I mean, is there like a recommendation the parish has versus like, would you rather have an open ditch? I mean, I think we would, obviously for maintenance purposes, but I'm just trying to see. I see a lot of houses with culverts in their front driveway, in their front yards, and their ditches. Is that like just for like aesthetic purposes, or is there a benefit to this? Is there something I'm not quite understanding?
Yes, some subdivisions, most of these areas are in subdivisions, and as they are designed today, they come designed curb and gutter. So
Okay.
you don't have ditches in the front, they have these pipes, and everything's designed mainly without metal pipes. And so we don't really have the problems in the newer developments, but these older ones such as this may not necessarily have been designed this way. And so, it might be that we could go in and just put the driveway areas back and leave open ditch. And this particular spot did not have a driveway on it. So, it could be an open ditch. But the landowner still would have to buy a pipe. And, it could be that they hire a contractor and go through the whole permitting process and get a request and hire themselves a contractor to go put the pipes back. But we were asked to bring this to you guys for a vote on this particular area to look at putting the pipes back.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
So this has been one of those topics that we've gone over the past 7 months. So, look at it, and it doesn't matter to me, but we'll look at it in two different ways. So is the open ditch better for us determining debris and roots and things like that? Yes, it is, but it also requires maintenance, cutting the grass, spraying, whatever be the case. So as you're driving down the road and you see the open ditch, do we have enough crews to, you saw the amount of off-road ditches on that map. Now, add roadside ditches. Do we have enough crews to go back and spray and cut all those things? So there is that cost to that. So then, if we go with drop inlets and covered, and we put that in and installed them. They bought the pipe, we installed it. Unless there was an engineering that showed us that it was destructive to drainage, and maybe we need to pay for the culverts, vice versa. What does that do for us? Yes, the possibility at some point in time, we're gonna have roots, we're gonna have obstructions, we gotta go blow it out, yes. But what you see is a good manicured lawn cut to the road that the owner keeps up. It holds the side of the road. There's no slope or crushing of asphalt as with open ditch because of the heavy trucks pushed down. You have a good shoulder there of ground against the edge of that asphalt, giving you longer life to your road. It cost us, and we have had a discussion, and I said, what is it gonna cost us, Ron, to do that service? And it costs about 6 hours. But we don't have to go cut the grass anymore because the homeowner does it. We got a good shoulder for a road that you don't have an open ditch, and so there's that cost benefit. So it doesn't bother me anyways, what y'all decide. I just wanted you to visualize the time it takes for us to do that versus what it looks like at the end product.
Sure. Mr. Joe?
I have a pretty strong opinion about this one. Putting culverts in property and upgrading, in my opinion, and actually it's upgrading your property. And the parish puts forward these guidelines, and we've put forward these guidelines for permits. And within these guidelines for years, they had these culverts that you see rotting out. I feel that if the constituents, if the people are willing to buy the culverts for us, that if we are capable of and we have the ability to put them in for them, that's a huge service to put for this community. It's not, I mean, I don't want to say whether it's fair or not, but we approved those culverts to begin with. So we're in a situation to help them. Let them pay for all the stuff, make sure it's all done the correct way, and let's put them back for them. I think it's a great idea.
Appreciate that, Mr. Robert. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I just want to make sure, and this is, they're buying the culverts and all,
Yeah.
we're just installing
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I think it's good that we do that for the citizens.
Sure. No other discussion? Any opposition to the motion? None? Motion passed. Mr. Ron, I think we're gonna either delete or remove what you,
Yeah, we recommend the removal of item O.
need a motion.
Do we need to make a motion on that, Cody?
Moved by
If you're gonna
Mr.
remove, you need to do it by motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed. All right, P approval, Mr. Ron.
Yeah, this is approval on a very similar scenario on Charlotte Avenue. It's been a problem, John, if you don't mind. So this is another one of these covert requests, and you can see the concern here. We actually went out to Charlotte Avenue and did a survey on this, and you can see it's existing 15-inch culverts out there, and the landowners are requesting that we supply the culverts and the labor to do this because it's an upgrade to drainage. Same scenario, it may be that we, in this case, are dealing with 300 or 400 feet of pipe here. Would that landowner be responsible for buying the culverts and catch basins needed to replace this? And so that's where we're looking for direction, one, to, what I feel like we can do here is the driveway.
Terry's district? Whose district?
I think it's,
Of course.
I think so.
It's not much.
I don't think it's.
Mr. President.
This is why we bring these to you, because this one's different, okay? Our engineering has discovered these are undersized. Because of that, it's causing drainage problems. So the owner's not at, is what we have discovered a engineering problem, therefore this one's different than the last. So I just wanted to point that out.
So the owner brought this to us, or y'all discovered this yourselves?
The owner brought it to us because he was threatful of getting water in his structure.
Yeah.
And, he's been dealing with this for a while now. And fortunately, he hasn't got water in the house yet. But Tom is going out with his crews and surveyed it. And not only are we talking about the section of culverts that we have surveyed, but also the cross drain where the water goes under the road to the outfall. We need to add an additional pipe at that outfall, but that's within our
That's
road
your
infrastructure.
right-of-way, yeah.
But the problem we're seeing is the water can't get out fast enough, so they need to upsize these pipes, that line of pipes. So the landowner's requesting that we, the parish, go correct it. Because they did go through the permitting process several years ago with these 15-inch pipes.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I want to add. They did get a permit. But back then, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But the parish said, use these 15-inch pipes. So they went through and got a permit and put in. So that's,
Sure.
it's a different scenario, but you don't want.
But we kind of have to
my
stay
opinion,
consistent
but that's
with
up to
what
you.
we did the last one, because the corrugated pipes were approved too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mr. Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, that really answers my question, is we approve these, and over time, they're not sufficient. My other question is, I guess that was a statement before, you answered my question earlier. My other question is this affecting other people along that road? I mean, I gather from what you're saying,
Yes.
it's affecting more than just this homeowner.
He is the one that's closest to getting in his home, but there's several other residents upstream of these driveways,
Okay,
yes.
once again, I mean, I think that's kind of the goal of the drainage department, is to fix drainage throughout the parish, and I think that's great. So I'll make a motion.
Moved by Mr. Corey.
Second.
I'm sorry. Mr. Corey's district. Corey's district. Aaron, look, he's gonna really thank you for making that motion, man. Mr. Terry.
If Dempsey doesn't make it home tonight, we know why.
I had him on my mind, man, this discussion, Mike.
Yeah, is this like just a single road? Is this a subdivision? Like where, I'm not familiar with it.
It's a dead-end street off of 73, right across from
Right to Port
Southwood
73.
subdivision.
Okay.
It's right in that area by the Prairieville Fire Department. And it is a dead-end street, but there's several residents past Mr. Blanchard here to drain through there.
Could we?
And also, you have to understand, on the other side of Charlotte, it's an open ditch, but they have 24 to 30-inch culverts. So these culverts are definitely undersized. You know, they may not have been 15 years ago, but they are now.
Well, could it be something we can maybe get with the residents to maybe do like a 75-25 matching, since they're the ones requesting it? I mean, I understand we need to do it, it's our responsibility as drainage, but I mean, we wouldn't have incurred this cost had they not made the phone call. I mean, it's just something looking into. I'm not saying that's the definite
I hate to
answer.
penalize people for making phone calls, though. I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, they're about to get water in their house.
I wouldn't look at it as a penalty. I mean, we're not making them pay for the whole culvert like our new policy is about to state. I mean, but at least kind of put something into it, you know, a little bit. I mean, I don't know what percentage is even fair, but I was just thinking maybe throw that out there.
Discussion, Mr. Chase.
Is this the one that we went on Ron on one of the field trips, and there's actually like some new commercial stuff around there, and it's just there's so much more water flowing now than there was 15 years ago?
Yeah.
Is
there
this the
some
same
commercial
one?
Developments around there.
Okay.
Mr. Terry.
When was this constructed, Ron?
It's
Originally.
been 5+ years ago. And since then, there's been a recreation hall with parking lot added and then a church upstream of all of this. But, you know, we are having these bigger events and they're showing. And, you know,
Yeah, I personally, I'm going to support this. I think that this is exactly what we have drainage for, so funds for, is to solve these kinds of problems. So, especially when we permitted it, I think we're obligated to fix it.
Discussion, Mr. Joe.
I want to start out saying that I'm not against passing this, but I do want to point out the precedent that we are making. The last one that we discussed, I don't see the situation as being any different. I mean, we're not providing the pipe for him. I've had a list probably a dozen long already of constituents that would love to have their pipe upsized that is downsized now, especially if we provide the culvert. Now, I understand the specific situation and that we can help them, but I don't think that Michael's that far off base. I think they need to put a little bit of skin in the game here. Just because they called us and we approved it, I mean, why aren't we paying for the other person's culvert and wishing to stop everybody else from calling right after that? Whether it is a 25% or something, I think we need to look at doing something with that before we set a precedent that we don't want to set.
One, Mr. Johnny.
Maybe I stepped out and missed it. Is this with catch basins and it's completely covered?
Yes, its current state is, and, you know, just throw an alternative out if you guys want to do some sort of, you know, do something for the residents. There is an open ditch, you know, ability here. We could do open ditch and put the driveways back.
That's what I was gonna ask. What
And then
about
get the-
upstream? Do they have open ditches or they all
Yeah,
have the same?
No, it's not all covered. There's some open ditch in the area. But, you know, if you guys want to get the landowners to help out with some of the piping of it,
Or ask me if they would consider just open ditch with
Yeah.
culvert under the driveway.
Yeah.
And anything other than that,
and then if they want to
provide
cover
Yeah.
the rest of it, they can go back through the process of permitting for the rest of the
that, I make
sections of
a,
ditch.
I like that,
Sure.
yeah.
Mr. Chase.
I would just argue that that the one that we just passed was it wasn't affecting major drainage. Nobody's house was flooding. This is a serious drainage issue. This is water inches from someone's home. So I just wanted to make that point.
Mr. Joe.
I make a motion to amend to where we will pay for the pipe where the driveway or any drives currently exist. We'll pay to install the pipe, but any other pipe they buy themselves.
So you're giving them the alternative to go,
Open ditch, and we'll pay for the culverts and
Sure.
drives. And if they don't want open ditch and they want to pay for the culverts, we'll reinstall them, just like we said we'll do with the previous case.
And any catch basin work will be on the landowner to pay for that.
How many catch basins you talking about, Ron?
Well, I think the catch basin, since we did permit it, once again, that's our fault, so we'll do, I mean, something that kind of falls in line of, if the culverts are there, you gotta put the catch basin. I mean, I say just let them pay for the pipes, we'll do the catch basin, we'll put the install in.
Let them buy the catch basin if they can buy the pipe.
And I know y'all said this a bunch of times already, but, you know, you guys aren't ready to make this decision. Just don't set a precedent that you're not willing to go across the board. If you need more time to consider it, you know, you can always table this to next month, you know?
This is a time-sensitive issue here, and
Yeah.
I think we, Ron and past president, they're all going in the right direction here, but I can see where we need to maybe
And
get,
I think it's reasonable, I mean, let's let them pay for the pipe, I mean, with the catch basin, let's take some of the expense, I get it, I mean, let them pay the pipe, we'll do the catch basin, we'll do the open ditches if they prefer that.
I would caution that moving forward. If you decide to put catch basins in on this one, you may be.
I'm saying just replace the existing ones, same thing. If we're replacing the existing pipe.
Mr. President.
If we can go out and make sure that this is as clean as possible in this area for this homeowner, blow out the culverts and everything else, to give us a month to present to y'all what it takes to do this, step by step in cost, so you can visually see the catch basins, because that's something you don't really consider in all this, and that is a very big hangup, is how these catch basins are installed and us doing it and the concrete involved and all of that. So, yeah, we'd have to outsource it. So this is, if you could, maybe we could just maybe go and blow them out, clean them out, make sure this is just as pristine as possible in case an event happens that it flows as until we can give us a month to come back with y'all to give you a detailed timeline and cost analysis of exactly what this would take place, and maybe photographs and everything that we can possibly give y'all, as much information so that we can fine tune this, because this is kind of this uncharted territory kind of thing, and it's very difficult to visualize all that it requires to do this. And we're talking about outsourcing and bidding and getting into a whole new realm here, so if
You wanna
that's okay.
Make a motion to.
Substitute motion.
I know it's not
Defer.
great for efficiency, but what if we pass a motion tonight to go open it up, let's put the driveway culvert in, and then we can talk about going and put the rest of the culverts back
If the
in.
owner
Well, we're kind
agrees.
of
Maybe
stuck
the owner
putting
won't
them out
agree.
after we do that.
Mr. Aaron.
I guess I got two questions. First of all, I guess I will, I think I agree with President Quinton on this. Let's look at this, because I'm reassessing my earlier motion and my understanding of putting the culverts in and all of everything that goes into it, and I was a little naive on that. So first of all, I'll make a motion that we table this for 30 days, provided that the administration comes back with the information they just offered. My second question is, I'm going back, looking at our new culvert installation, replacement, and upgrade policy. Would this new policy cover this issue? And if not, we need to make sure this policy does cover this issue, so we don't come back on this again. I don't need an answer right now, but I want to make sure that this policy that we are looking at approving does cover this type of issue and the issue that we had before this. Otherwise, we need to review this policy.
Well, if you look on page 2 in that section, C2B,
Yes.
I mean, basically, the policy kicks this to y'all as a drainage board to be able to make the determination. And if y'all remember the last time we talked about this, one of my biggest concerns was the distinguishing factor shouldn't be whether the parish discovers it or if the landowner calls it in. That's just not a fine, you can't make that determination one way or the other. This is a particular example of it. The landowner called in and said, I got a problem. We went out there, we assessed it, realized they had a problem. You just can't use that as your determination. So,
That's what I'm saying. I think we need more guidelines in
Yeah, and I
this.
think with the administration, and this is a hard one, and Clint around will tell you, we've talked about this for a long time, but, we probably need some guidance from you guys as to what do you want distinguishing factor to be? Is it gonna be we just go and return to open ditch across the board unless the landowner pays for the culverts and the catch basins? Or we're just cautioning you guys from, picking and choosing how you're gonna handle each project? Get something across the board that you all can live with.
Well, appreciate that, Cody, but I guess the determine, back to here, what are you gonna go back with at the cross drain, Ron? What are you gonna have to put back when you cross Charlotte?
They were just gonna add a pipe on the side of the existing pipes that's there.
So what is under that right now? Is that a 15 or is that?
No, there's a 24 or 30 there
24?
now. We're gonna put an additional on the side of that
Okay.
to allow almost double the water going under the road now because it can't get to the other side.
I got you.
Hey, Cody, in an instance like this, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Terry, you go.
It's all right. I was just trying to get Dempsey's attention. Go ahead, and I'll follow you.
In an instance like this, I mean, the homeowner doesn't have a say-so if we go rip that pipe up.
Yeah,
I mean, that's our servitude, that's our responsibility.
Correct. If it's within a drainage servitude, it's your responsibility.
Okay.
Mr. Terry?
So,
I may say one thing. If you keep the policy, okay, look, Mr. Blanchard, well, we're gonna go out there and fix the 2 driveways, and we're gonna leave you an open ditch. Now, if you want culverts, you can come to the drainage board, get on the agenda and ask them, will you pay for my culverts? The reason I'm suggesting that is that water has been very close to this man's house. And he's for 6 months, told us, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And with these flash floods, I just wanna skirt any liability, if you know what I'm talking about. So, I don't know if we should, delay it 30 days and see what we can do, what the costs are, or should we do the other way? That's just something to think about.
I'll make a second on his motion to delay 30 days.
Ron, you're gonna have 30 days, you're gonna have enough time to assess and,
Yeah, I mean, we already have as you saw, the engineering drawings of what Tom and this group is recommending, and we can put some estimates on catch basin costs, and we have the bid prices on linear feet of pipe, so it'd be very simple to throw you a cost on this for in-house, what it would
Okay.
cost.
And go out there and clean it out immediately.
Yeah, I mean, we
There's
could
no
do
problem.
that.
Sure.
That's no problem at all. And we'll discuss it with that landowner, because he's gonna, as Tom said, wondering what the vote was tonight.
Sure.
He's very concerned, as you can see.
Ms. Terry?
So I'm going to support certainly deferring. However, I'd like to encourage the administration to understand that if this board is going to have to make these decisions each and every time somebody wants to do this, then we're going to need some strong package with good information and good cost analysis and a strong recommendation from the administration, what you believe is the most appropriate way to handle this. Otherwise, you're going to have 11 different opinions up here about how to do it. And, if you have a strong recommendation on each one of these occasions, then I think some of us, or maybe even all of us, would say, okay, we've gotten some leadership here. So I would just ask that going forward, if we have to assess these, as obviously we do with this new policy, give us a loaded packet so that we understand what you're asking us to do, and give us a strong recommendation of how you think we should handle it.
We have, Mr. President?
And I should have mentioned this earlier, and I apologize. We could go put the extra culvert across the road, so if you want to amend that to make sure we put that in there to get that water across that road, we can do that.
I'll amend my motion that we also add the crossroad drainage.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any opposition? Not? Motion. Mr. Chase, you had discussion?
Opposition into deferring.
Ms. Liz, you want to get a roll count?
Commissioner Robert,
Yes.
Commissioner Malonzo,
No.
Commissioner Lawler,
Yes.
Commissioner Cazo,
Yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Just stepped out.
Chairman Lambert.
Yes.
Commissioner Cagnolati didn't vote.
Yeah. Yes.
Motion
6 to 1
passed.
pass, yeah.
Okay, we're going to queue approval of renewal of task order contract. Mr. Ron.
This is approval to renew task order contract with Delcon LLC for the maintenance and repair services for Marvin Bro, Henderson Bayou, and Sorrento pumping stations, just time extension for another term.
Motion to approve.
Motion
Second.
by Mr. Terry, second Mr. Johnny. Discussion, any opposition? None? Motion passed. R, approval of renewal of task order. Mr. Ron.
Same here, this is engineering support. We're asking for approval
Motion.
to renew the task order with Dura Group.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Chase, second by Mr. Johnny. Discussion, opposition? None? Motion passed. S, authorization. Go ahead, Ron.
Authorization to enter into an intergovernmental agreement between East Ascension
Motion.
Consolidated Drainage.
Second.
Before you guys take this up, let me just make a clarification on this. We actually have an intergovernmental agreement that's already signed with PLD on this one, so the motion just needs to be to authorize PLD to move forward right-of-way acquisition on behalf of the Drainage Board.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Terry, second by Mr. Johnny. Discussion. Opposition? None. Motion passed. T, another approval. Mr. Enlow.
Good evening. This is to renew and extend the contract with HNTB for floodplain management for 1 year. What we're doing here is we have, this is just a time extension, basically, no money added.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Chase, second by Mr. Michael. Discussion. Mr. Aaron.
I do have some discussion. This may be more encompassing than this, but I've been looking at this contract and where we've been moving on the floodplain management plan, and we haven't moved yet. I believe, first of all, I believe it's very important because sort of like we've done with Move Ascension, we have a plan, and we've just passed last meeting, a transportation master plan. I believe it's extremely important that we develop, implement a master drainage plan. Right now, we have 14 engineering firms doing work all throughout the parish. It's not always coordinated. I believe that we need to coordinate it. We need to model everything. Right now, we're about to go in executive session because we have some issues with working with other parishes and how what we're going to do affects those other parishes. And I think part of having a master drainage floodplain management plan, I think is the better term for it, would help us avoid some of those conflicts. Also, right now, we have a 4-year revolving of administrations, sometimes 8, sometimes 4, and it's nothing to do with this administration, but every time you have a change in administrations, priorities may get changed. This may impede the flow of work. We've seen that we have some projects that have, stalled, and sometimes it is because maybe a new administration has a different plan for it. So you end up with a delay there. I believe if we get a true floodplain management plan, we're going to have a continuity in how we handle things throughout the parish, and we will avoid having these change in plans with the new administration. So I think it's very important that we get something very long-term. Additionally, I think a long-term floodplain management plan is needed. Right now, we've spoken in the past year to our federal representation, our congressmen and our senators, and they have indicated that they don't want pet projects. They don't want to approve pet projects, whether it be a pet project of the parish or a pet project of certain council people or administrations. What they want is data-driven information on projects, a long-term plan. They want these projects that they are going to go fight for in Washington, D.C. They want to have a plan that they can point to and say, this is important to this region, this is the data that supports it, and this is not going to be changed with the next administration or the next changing of the council. They want to have something that they can go to bat for us on, and I think this is very important that we move forward with a floodplain management plan. So the questions I have is, what will it cost, what will it take to to extend this? We're extending the contract, but more than just extending it, what will it take to begin the process of creating a floodplain management plan that we have? I had some paperwork on it. We did some work on this, and I could tell you, where is it? There it is. It's been stalled. Since 2018, it looks like. We've worked on this. We started with the contract in 2017. I think it's time that we started moving forward on a floodplain management plan. So my question is now, what will it take to kickstart this, whether it be funds, approval from this board? What do we need to do? Anybody can answer that.
Mr. President.
So this particular renewal is to get the work that they're working on with us, with the Watershed Initiative, making sure we continue, secure those funds, and that's what you see here. What I would suggest, this is up to y'all, since you're talking about a long-term plan, since you're talking about modeling, this is millions of dollars. I would suggest you go out for bid, you open it up, you let every company come in here and they pitch their best product to you, because once you do this long-term deal, likely that this is the company you're going to be with. And it could be H&DB, could be anybody. What I would suggest is you open it up and you let them come in here and give you their best pitch and what they're going to give you as a product and what's our return on investment. And that's just my suggestion, is this is a long-term deal, like Councilman Law talked about. So let's make sure we choose wisely, and let's make sure that everybody comes to the table with their best product and their best pitch, so that if we're going to do a long-term deal, and that we choose the right company. Thanks.
Mr. Chase. Ms. Terry.
I certainly support moving forward with this piece tonight. And I do have a real lean toward HNTB because of the work that they have done already on this issue. So while I don't object to putting it out for bid as any long-term floodplain management, I do believe that they have a significant commitment already in this parish and have already done a lot of work. So I can't imagine that they wouldn't be the primary source of this kind of data for us. I know that we need that long-term plan, and I strongly support that. I also want us to have some incremental pieces in that we can do as we go, so that we are not waiting. You all know how long it takes to develop any kind of long-term plan. So we would certainly need to have some, I would just caution that we not lack some incremental steps that we could make. But I'm certainly going to support this tonight.
Mr. Johnny.
Just another quick question. Following up with what Terry asked, if we get some incremental, or phase 1, phase 2, whatever, but if you could check with H&TB or whoever, how long do they think it would take to do a comprehensive floodplain management plan? Time-wise, you said you're looking long-term. Well, how long will that take to develop the plan and present it to us? That would be my question.
So Ms. Kennedy's here, if she were.
Could you?
Yeah. And if I may go back, haven't they already
Oh,
bid that? I
Yes.
mean, isn't this what they're
18,
supposed to be
24
doing?
months?
Yeah, originally the project came out as an RFQ, and we did submit and came out as the #1 qualified firm. So we were given that contract. As Councilman Lawler said, it did stall, and that's why we're kind of where we are today. We did the implementation plan, and then it kind of got stalled. So if that's the way the administration wants to go, we're more than willing to, put our qualifications out there again. But to answer your specific question, our schedule shows about 13 months.
13 months.
Because of all the data that we already do have and the modeling and everything that we already do have.
Yeah, anything? Ms.
So,
Terry.
so I have no desire to start this process all over again.
No.
I mean, I apologize for not recalling that, and that is exactly what we did in 2017. And so we just need to get moving on this. I know H&TB must be ready to do it, and so I don't know what we need to include tonight to encourage that we continue to move on the long-term plan. But I think we need to make sure that our motion reflects that that's what we want to happen, is for this, we need to reinvigorate that long-term plan and any supplemental options that might exist there to get some things done short-term, and then we need to get going.
Mr. Aaron?
Yeah, and I guess I would clear before, yes, this has already gone out to an RFQ. We've already done those steps. I certainly don't want to delay this anymore. And I guess that was kind of my question. Maybe it's to you, Cody, also. Do we need to make an amendment to this motion, or to this? Or how do we move forward with?
Yeah, look, I can't answer that tonight. I need to go back and pull the original contract and all the different amendments and see what's the status of it right now.
Because it's my understanding that the original contract was to move forward with the floodplain management plan and implementation plan. And right now, we're lacking that. To me, that's key. So, I'm looking at some of my other.
Yeah,
You got a minute? You got a minute?
Yeah, go ahead.
Johnny?
With that in mind, what she just told us, I would offer a substitute motion that we extend the contract for 13 months. You said it would take 13 more months, right? To come up with a long-term plan?
I'd have to go,
Instead of
let me
extending
go
it
back.
for a year.
Mr. Enlow, you know, is that what you're looking for, the time extension, or what exactly you wanna?
Well, we wanted a time extension to, we believe the contract ends in August of this year. So
Okay.
to do these two application submittals for the Watershed Institute, we were looking at $55,000. I think there's $88,000 left on the contract, but it was going to take about a month and a half longer than August 7th. So that's why we're looking for this extension. So 88,000 minus 55 gives you $30,000.
Okay. Mr. Aaron?
$30,000 doesn't get us a long-term plan. So what do you need to, I mean, we bid this. We have a plan, we have a company that is authorized to do this. What do we need to do to get them to developing a long-term plan and whatever else, the two other things you mentioned just now?
Watershed initiative, yeah.
The watershed initiative and,
Yeah,
You can be going outside.
I guess we'd need a full proposal on that effort from the implementation of that plan. I don't have that in front of me. I'm not sure what
Yeah, I mean,
the most recent.
You're gonna need a scope of work that
Dollar
everybody
amount
wants to
is,
move
yeah.
forward on. And then you're
Exactly.
gonna need
Apologize.
the amount that it's gonna cost, and you gotta make sure that you got the monies in the budget to go ahead and approve that. So that's what you would need before you'd make a motion to move forward on that task.
So can I?
Sure.
We did submit that proposal back in July of 2018. I resubmitted it recently just because it needed to be updated because it's been 2 years. And the cost of that is like $2,195,000 or $193,000, right around there.
that has yet to be approved.
Correct.
Okay. So
And that's border to border? That's the entire parish?
It does not include the West Bank.
Okay.
So I'm going to make a motion that we move forward with our long-term drainage plan with HNTB, who has qualified and been selected to do that work. And let's don't stall. I mean, we just need to get this work done.
You got that. I agree with your intention, but let's hold up just a minute.
My intention is to have a big discussion here.
Right. Mr. Mike?
Well, if we know, I mean, they're estimating 2.19 million, that definitely should go out for bid, huh?
Yeah.
It already has.
It already
When?
has.
In 2017.
But this
We've
is a new
already done
project
an
we're
RFQ.
talking about, right?
No, same project,
So they were awarded this project?
Yes.
Yes.
Why hasn't it been done?
because it got delayed.
For what?
That's-
Because
That's what I don't understand.
Yeah.
And
Mr.
no,
President.
the administration didn't push it forward.
Previous administration.
We just need the finance department to ensure that we have the money in the budget. If y'all's intention to do that. So as soon as we can find that, make sure that the finance department says, yes, we can budget this, we get the money, we have the money, and we can move forward. That would be my only suggestion. Let's make sure we have the money and we budget it. And if we need to amend the budget or whatever. Because if it's been delayed this long, there's obviously, I doubt it's in the budget, but let's, with the finance department to ensure the money's there, because it is over $2 million. to ensure it's there, and then we'll be ready to move forward. That's my suggestion,
Yeah,
is just
and
make sure
just-
it's in the budget.
Just to answer your question, Michael, the way these contracts are worded is they're task order contracts. So we go off RFP for a certain scope of work with a not-to-exceed amount, and then the administration at the time issues a task to move forward with a certain, basically a task, whatever's defined as that particular task. So that's how something could have gotten approved and not necessarily moving forward to getting what you asked for, what you thought you approved. So just wanted to clarify that.
I make a second on Ms. Terry's motion.
Oh, and that's what, you guys are voting to move forward, so then I would suggest you guys go back and look at the original scope of it to see if you
Yeah,
want to change
correct.
anything, before you go committing $2 million tonight that you don't even know is in the budget.
You have that in your motion, Ms. Terry?
Yes, thank you. I think.
It's second by Mr. Robert. Any opposition to that motion?
So what's the motion exactly?
Yeah.
The motion is that we begin to move forward with this project, that we evaluate through finance, and bring this back next drainage meeting.
Good, okay. I do support it, but I would like for the other 30% of the board to be here with us.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that either.
Yeah, I think next month is good.
Can we just have 15% with us?
Mr. Ron?
I would like to, suggest, if I may, the proposal for 2.2 million. What are we getting for the 2.2 million? And we talked about a lot of things up here tonight, that the basis of the $2.2 million proposal was a lot to do with the regulations and ordinances of our land development code
Right.
versus watersheds. There's a lot of components within that 2.2 million, okay, that were geared towards code. It may be that we need to really refine that proposal and make sure that the 2.2 million, before we start this, we know what that end product will be. And we're ready to implement whatever the end product for the 2.2 million is, whatever that may be. We're gonna get some scientific data out of this, and it'll be a political decision based off of scientific data while we're ready to go there. So I would suggest that we thoroughly vet whatever is proposed, and we can certainly get with finance on the budget, and at the next meeting, bring that proposal to you guys.
Mr. Chair.
Sure. Mr. Robert?
I think we need to be careful with waiting too long, because I'm very familiar with this particular project, because this is during the campaign time, and I did a lot of research on this. I think it's very necessary. We can't make any actual, real intelligent decisions, meaning knowing the whole scope of what things will cause other places without having this modeling. We don't know where all the watersheds are. If we change the scope of work, we're gonna have to put it out for bid again. And we'll be in the same process that Aaron's talking about in the new administration. I think we need to be careful in changing scopes of work and move forward and do what we're supposed to be doing already.
Hold on, Mr. Kenny.
I guess my question, Ron, would be on that. And if you include it in the 2.2 million, does it include the watershed initiative and other tasks that may have been included in the initial scope?
And I would like to defer to Melissa on this, and look, all kudos to HNTB for all they've done to this point. If you don't mind, maybe go into what that proposal would consist of, Melissa.
Sure.
And I think we really want to focus on project development and prioritizing where we need to go with some of this modeling, the 2D modeling. And will that be able to be utilized, for example, was brought up earlier, if a development is proposed, what will be the effect of that development within that watershed based on modeling? And if it shows a negative effect, will it show what that negative is and what a solution would be if it's put in?
Yeah, Ron, if I may, Mr. Cagnotti, I think that was you that asked the question. I was going to basically say what Ron just said. They've done some extensive modeling on the Marvin Bro watershed, which is about 70% of the East Bank, and also Bayou Conway and Panama. So they have a great deal of this information already done under the levy certification contract. So we're doing what we wanted them to do with these applications for the watershed. It's I'm not going to say it's just a matter of them modeling it. There's some technical stuff they have to do, but that's a big part of it. Using them was they had this data set to fall back on and use to help us with these applications.
Ms. Kennedy?
So yes, there's money that had not been expended yet that was originally allocated. And they've asked us if we could put these watershed initiative applications, there's 2 applications that they've asked us to look at. So that's about, what he said, about 55,000, which leaves like 30,000 left on the original budget that was allocated. And again, the 2.2 million is in our implementation plan of what we said it would take to do the final floodplain management plan. So that's where that budget comes from. It's just never been approved. So, and to answer your question, our scope, what we have, if we need to modify it or relook at it or revise it because of changes from since 2 years ago, we can do that. That's not a problem. And of course, we would update whatever the fee is based on whatever that scope modification is. Currently, what's in the scope right now is to do some additional data collection in some of these watersheds where we hadn't done the data collection. Buddy Creek, Bayou Manchac area, Henderson Bayou. Most of the other parish, we've already collected the data. Same with the modeling. We need to take our model. It's a big model. There's actually multiple components to it, but we want to break that model into smaller subsegments for each watershed. So the intent is to, I'm sorry, I'm just having trouble talking tonight, I don't know why.
You can move your mask.
Yeah,
if
you're
you
right.
like.
Yeah, take that.
There you go.
I
There.
think you're right, I think it's the math. Anyway, so the intent then is to take the models that we already have, break them into the smaller watershed segments, as well as develop the models for the watershed segments that we don't have. Henderson, again, Bayou, Manchac area, Muddy Creek, et cetera. Then with those models, what we do with the data that we've collected, we run an existing conditions assessment to determine where it floods and then what are the impact of those floods. Then we go into a project development mode where we then say, what can we do to reduce the risk of flooding? And that is not just projects, it could be strategies such as buffer zones, maintaining some floodplains that are already out there, those kind of things, as well as looking at your ordinances and development codes. And we've done a little bit of that already, but we had not done a lot of actually looking at the data in terms of those ordinances, such as what Michael said, or Ron, of actually like looking at the development and what's the impact of developments. You know, we can look at the model right now and we can see some areas where, because there is development there, the water moves around it differently than what it did prior to that development. So those are the things we want to look at to make sure we come up with recommendations that are reduce the risk of flooding. So at the end of this, then you will have a plan, a long-term range plan with recommendations for projects and for different other strategies. So that's basically the
You
intent.
good, Mr. President?
So what we've done in the last 7 months, and as these things come up, is how do we utilize information? How do we utilize it? And that's why I just encourage this board to go over that question. Because if we do this and then we get a bunch of information and then the administration says, well, I don't know how to handle it or what to do with it. For like example, you know, when we do the modeling, what is that end product going to give us? What is our return on investment? And that's a key component in moving forward. So we want to ensure that in this task order has that, so that this administration can utilize that and regurgitate it back to y'all to make these decisions. And that's the only thing. And I agree with Mr. Robert's aggressiveness, and we got to get this done quick. And that's fine. It's just if you don't do it right, then we think, well, why you didn't speak up, Clint? Why you didn't say, I need to know what the end product is. I need to know what this administration can use this information, this $2 million worth of task, and implement it to improve drainage for our constituents. And that's why I just encourage you to look at that so we know what that end product is and how Ron and this drainage can utilize that to improve drainage and work with HNTB to ensure that they're giving us that product that we can utilize and how we use it to move forward, whether it's looking at small developments or larger floodplains. And so just want to make sure that that task order and that information is correct.
Sure. Mr. Aaron?
Yeah, a couple things. I agree, you know, we have to be able to use this information, but I think that falls on the administration to figure out how to use it, because we're gonna get a lot of information. We're gonna learn about our floodplains, our waterways, and this is time sensitive. I mean, this has been going on for almost 3 years now that we haven't moved forward with a floodplain management plan. And for us to tell the citizens of Ascension Parish that we're just sitting here tonight that we're going to delay this even further is almost preposterous, considering all we do is talk about we need infrastructure, we need drainage infrastructure, and that's what this is going to do. It's going to give us a way not only to figure out what we need, but how do we implement it and prioritize it, because that's one of the keys, and that is something that we did with Move Ascension is we prioritized what road work could be done, how do we get the money for it, how do we get the federal matching funds for it, and that's a huge part of this is how we're going to obtain matching funds. And there's a lot out there, probably more for drainage than there is for transportation. The other part of this is, I know there may be some concerns about the budget, 2.1 million. We have $30 million in drainage. We have $30 million. We do not have a plan to use that money. And I don't mean, hey, let's go spend it. I mean, we need a floodplain management plan. You don't build a house without planning it ahead of time. If you do, you end up what we have now is we have neighborhoods that are built on top of neighborhoods where the drainage doesn't work with each other. And we see it every day. This is a step towards avoiding that. This is a step towards not just the small neighborhood by neighborhood, but waterways, we're about to do work on New River. We've got the Frog Bayou going in. These are all very good projects, but let's make sure we know how they work together. One of the things that we're about to go into an executive session because there were questions about how work we're going to do is how that's going to affect other parishes. I know that HNTB is doing the same thing for East Baton Rouge Parish. We need to work regionally, and this is also a step towards that. This is exactly what our congressional delegation has told us to do, is that, hey, you need a plan. Don't come to us with pet projects and things you want to get done. Come to us with something that you can say is part of a plan, it's data-driven, and that's exactly what we're working on right here. I think this needs to move forward. I have no concerns about the budget because we have the money. We need to do this, and I'd rather get this done sooner than later.
Mr. Joe?
I think another reason that we need to move forward with it is our field ordinance. This will give us actual numbers instead of having to worry about arbitrary numbers and this and that of different areas of the parish. And I don't want to be that council that put it on hold and put it on hold. I think this is going to be it's a good starting point for the rest of Ascension Parish's future. Okay. So I feel like the 30 days is fair as far as budgetary. I mean, we'll still have to vote on any major expenses or any expenditures anyways. But I mean, I just want to reiterate, I'm ready to move forward.
Appreciate it. Anything else on this side? Mr. Enlow, this is your time. Don't look like that deer in the headlight look right now.
Don't mess it up.
Just blew
Don't
up.
mess it up.
Yeah. I may have veered off there for a minute. So what are you, this board asking for at the moment?
We got a few
It's
motions, I'm not sure.
It's time sensitive, I know, and we've got several motions up here, so.
There'd be a few things that, anything we look at, just from the stuff we've heard from the meeting tonight.
Sure.
Would there be an opportunity from any plan we get to identify homes that could be elevated or buyouts, things that you could do a benefit cost instead of doing a big project? It's smarter to do this or that. Dry detention, regional area-wide detention, as the parish president's mentioned before. And then what type of grant funding for projects that we could open ourselves up to. Those are the types of questions I would have for you guys. I don't know if you want to answer that. That's just kind of some of the thoughts that I had, so.
No, you mentioned a bunch of different projects, and those are things that we'd look at. You also mentioned detention or retention. Those are things that we would definitely be looking at. In terms of funding and how we get funding, that's part of what we also would be looking at. Where would the funding come to pay for everything? Right now, you've got there's some hazard mitigation grant programs out there. You've utilized that to the extent you can, so that's awesome. There's the Louisiana Watershed Initiative. You've got some applications that you're putting in right now for the round one. There are going to be multiple rounds for those applications, so that's an opportunity for funding. There's the State Flood Control Program. That's a yearly program where you can submit projects for the state funding to pay for those. They have to meet certain criteria, as all these different types of funding do. So those are just some of the things. Those are what we would be looking at and recommending on how to pay for different types of projects. Did I answer everything?
Yeah. Elevation and buyouts, I mean, that's the kind of the stuff, we're not looking to just get projects. We want to make sure we're doing the best for our area.
Right, and we
keeping
can.
flood risk down.
Yeah, we would definitely, we would be able to tell you, what properties where that is an issue and at what elevation that's going to be an issue. And then you would decide, how you want to handle those.
The parish is gonna look different, I promise you.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
It's gonna look very different. So with that,
I had a motion that we renew this contract
In 30
and
days.
proceed to check with finance and
Yeah.
get back to us next month on moving forward on the full floodplain management contract.
Sure.
I'll remind you that that's a 2-year project almost, so we're looking at 2 budgetary years. So we're not talking about writing a check
Yeah.
this year.
sure. So we have a motion and a second by Mr. Joel. Any further discussion? Administration, anything?
Can we,
Mr. Enlow?
can we be clear on the approval for tonight to extend the time?
Yes.
And then for these?
Yeah,
Okay.
so tonight we're extending the time, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
we're extending the time and moving to get this floodplain management program done. No more delay.
Ron, if you see something that I know we're gonna check with finance. If we need to move and have another, meeting or something to that effect, whatever you need, just let us know.
I think what we'll do as administrations, we'll get with Melissa and H&TB, get that proposal in front of administration, we'll dissect the proposal, verify with finance, and we'll bring all that information back to you guys next
Sure.
month. That's what I'm understanding you wanting.
That
In
is
the
what we
meantime,
want.
we are going to move forward, though, with extending the existing
Yes.
contract, use some of those funds for the watershed initiative process, get that moving, and we'll be back next month to discuss this again.
Man, he listened.
Yeah.
You got it.
With no further discussion, any opposition? Motion passed. All right, we're going to executive session.
Motion to go into executive session, Mr.
Roll
Chairman.
call, Ms. Secretary.
Commissioner Robert?
Yes.
Commissioner Melanson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawler?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Cazzo?
Yes.
Commissioner Cagliari?
Yes.
Commissioner Mason?
Yes.
And Chairman Dempsey Lambert.
Yes.
I think we'd have got
Oh, it
started
is.
at
I'm
8
chilly.
o'clock like last time.
Then I be calling, I called Coach Oregon, yeah, no telling what I be calling y'all. Might be calling you Monty.
Motion to reconvene?
Second.
Motion by reconvene, Mr. Terry, second by Mr. Johnny. We reconvene, Mr. Malonzo.
Not much update, just update, we, are progressing talks between Ascension and Livingston for Laurel Ridge Levy extension project.
Appreciate that. We'll move on to V, the executive session for the city of Sorrento.
Motion to enter executive session.
Motion by Mr. Aaron, second by Mr. Johnny. Roll call, Ms. Secretary.
Commissioner Robert,
Yes.
Commissioner Malonzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawler,
Yes.
Commissioner Cazzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Cagnolati,
Yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Yes?
and Chairman Lambert.
Yes. one's left.
Everybody else gave up.
No, there's my max. All right, my max. So on top of things.
He probably wasn't there the whole time.
No, somebody didn't put it back. Motion to reconvene.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Green, by Mr. Aaron, second by Mr. Johnny. We can reconvene. Mr. Robert.
We just went in and basically advised legal counsel to respond to their letter, or to their lawsuit.
We have a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Motion to adjourn.
Good job.